Folks, it's Monday after a 4th of July weekend. Hope you had a good one. And we'll kick it all off with Congressman Louis Gohmert, Republican from Texas, Vice Chair of the House Judiciary Subcommittee on Crime, Terrorism, and Homeland Security. And he will be here to discuss what's going on at the border and the, of course, crisis with the children coming across. Then the Malzberg panel, columnist for Breitbart and American thinker C. Edmund Wright, and columnist for the UK Telegraph and National Review, Tom Rogan. Sean Spicer, Communications Director for the RNC, will join us. And boy, do we have a lot to talk about with him, not the least of which is Obama deciding not to go to the Texas border while he's in Texas, and also the, of course, continuing investigations on the IRS side and elsewhere. All that, you got Give Me Five and more coming up on this hour of the Steve Malzberg Show.
Ready, fire away. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studio in New York City. A fusion of politics, commentary, entertainment, and sports. Steve and his team bring you the latest news and opinion now. Here is Steve Malzberg.
And I want to let you all know that this is a very special week here on the Steve Malzberg Show. All week, every day, we are going to focus on a potential GOP presidential candidate, and we're going to have experts on to talk about their chances going forward. For instance, today we're going to focus on Ben Carson, and we're going to be joined by our friend Ed Rollins and also by Matt Towery, who will focus on the chances for Ben Carson should he decide to run. And will he decide to run? We have the latest polling numbers regarding Ben Carson and also some of the impediments that he might face should he become a presidential candidate for the GOP nomination. So that's in the second hour. So make sure you're tuned in to Newsmax Television the entire week on the Steve Malzberg Show. All week, every day, it'll be a different candidate on the road to the White House. Couple things that I want to talk about as we await Congressman Louis Gohmert. And one I mentioned with Ed Berliner, if you were watching during a little crosstalk before the news break at the top of the hour. And that involves what's going on in Israel. Of course, it turns out that the killing of the Palestinian teenager was apparently a revenge killing. There have been several Jewish citizens arrested, and 3 have reportedly confessed. But the Prime Minister in this case has called the father of the Palestinian child and not only expressed his grief and his outrage, but also promised that those who did murder his son will be held accountable and will serve the proper time in jail. On the other hand, we have the murderers of the 3 Israeli teenagers still not held accountable, still not known who they are. And I don't know that Mr. Abbas is in any hurry to bring them to justice. All right, we're about to be joined by Congressman Louis Gohmert. But first, did you see Meet the Press? Meet the Press had the Homeland Security Secretary on, Mr. Johnson, Secretary Johnson, and David Gregory pressed him over and over and over again as to whether or not the kids who are crossing the border illegally will be returned to their country of origin. Watch.
There is a deportation proceeding that is commenced against illegal migrants, including children. We are looking at ways to create additional options for dealing with the children, in particular, consistent with our laws and our values.
I'm trying to get an answer to, will most of them end up staying, in your judgment?
I think we need to find more efficient, effective ways to turn this tide around generally, and we've already begun to do that.
All right. What does that mean? Are you saying it's impractical to deport all of them who are here now?
I'm saying that we've already dramatically reduced the turnaround time for the adults, and we're in the process of doing that for the adults with the kids.
All right, folks, you will see more of that on the Give Me Five segment at the, near the end of this hour. We welcome in Congressman Gohmert. Hello, sir.
Well, hello. How do you do?
Good. Happy 4th of July, which is over. Hope you had a good one, and it's great to talk to you again. So,
well, it's great to talk to you, but this is a massive problem, and despite the administration being responsible for the massive influx, they don't want to take responsibility for it.
Well, first and foremost, the president is going to be in your home state. And once again, the president, the White House saying today he will not visit the border. Is that a slap in the face, or is that just more of the same where this president doesn't seem to care about much of anything anymore?
This president has never stopped campaigning. You know, most presidents, if they get elected to a second term, then they quit campaigning and they begin at least to attempt governing. This president has never stopped campaigning. That's why he didn't just disengage the OFA. He's still campaigning, and so he's in Texas to suck out as much money as he can, and it wouldn't hurt his feelings if Texas got overwhelmed and had to quit bragging about all the jobs that are being created here. But that's about the only thing he cares about in Texas is the money he can suck out.
What about the solution to this problem, Congressman? I mean, the Homeland Security Secretary was asked over and over and over again by David Gregory, of all people, on Meet the Press, no conservative there. What does this mean? Are you saying you're going to deport them? Are you saying you're not going to deport them? He never said he's going to deport them. I mean, he basically said, you know, we have to do what Americans would make us proud to do, and we have to look out for the welfare of the children. I think, in my opinion, I don't think you're going to see kids go back ever.
Well, and that's the thing. He would say it if he could say it. And the fact is, if he just said it, it would stem some of the tide of the tens or hundreds, as we're finding out now, hundreds of thousands that are coming. But they won't even say it, as you say. In fact, when I was down the border 2 weeks ago in the McAllen area, that McAllen sector used to be one of the lowest areas of crossing over. Tucson was always the highest, and now Tucson has taken a far back seat to the massive influx through the McAllen sector. But the Border Patrolman will tell you off the record, look, yeah, in the past, and I didn't remember this, they said we had a huge problem with Brazilians coming in at one time because they got word nobody would be deported if you came, and all it took was sending a few families back, and all of a sudden the influx stopped overnight. That was rather amazing. So I really do think, Steve, all it would take is sending some folks back. And even though they're not talking about it, that's what the law requires. And it would be a whole lot cheaper to put some Border Patrolmen with a group and send them back where they came from, make sure they're safe going back, than it would be to keep taking on this massive influx. Our schools cannot handle this influx. We don't even know what all diseases they have. Our healthcare systems can't withstand this influx. It's like having a home and inviting everybody to your home because you've got a good job, things are going well. Before long, you got everybody sleeping all over the floor, and you can't afford to feed them, give them health care, and you can't even afford to take care of their needs. This is where we're headed, and bankruptcy is one of the places you go, especially when you're using money as we do. That really, our currency is just a check. It used to be backed up by gold or silver. Now it's just a check saying, hey, trust us, we'll pay you for this check. But we're seeing more and more, and I saw over the weekend, you know, there's a deal between South Korea and China to go around using dollars. Yeah, so, you know, this is a good way to bankrupt the country in addition to overwhelming all of our services.
What is the purpose? What if you could get inside the mind of Barack Obama, why is he doing this?
Well, I don't know. It's been clear that he is about winning at all costs. He doesn't matter what has to be. He doesn't care what has to be said. He doesn't care who gets hurt. He doesn't care what promises get broken. As Ed Klein revealed in his book here recently, you make whatever promises you've got to, but in the end, they have said they want to turn Texas blue. They want to turn America blue. And if you bring in hundreds of thousands or millions of people and give them the ability to vote and tell them, as some Kiko Canseco said, he had illegals in his district that were told, if you want to keep getting the benefits, you have to go vote. And President Obama's lawyer is not going to allow them to ask for an ID, so go vote or you're going to lose your benefits you're getting now. That drives people to vote, and it will ensure that Republicans don't ever get elected again.
I want you to hear your colleague from Texas, Congressman Cuellar, a Democrat, who was on one of the shows yesterday. Listen to this.
The president has asked for some money. He certainly can move some monies around, and we can handle that at the end if we want to. Again, let's keep in mind, with all due respect to the administration, they're one step behind. They should have seen this coming a long time ago. They should have seen this a long time ago because we saw those numbers increasing.
Okay, first of all, is he going to get the $2 billion that he's requesting? And secondly, are you surprised that the Democrat Cuellar said what he said?
No, Henry's a friend, and we disagree on some occasions, but Henry's never been dishonest to me, so it doesn't surprise me that Henry's being honest about this. He's a good, decent man. But the truth is, we shouldn't have to be asking for $2 billion. They need to enforce the law as it is. And but, you know, Steve, I've even heard our friend Britt Hume say, oh, the immigration laws are a disaster. Congress has got to change them. Well, until we have a president that will follow laws that we passed, it's insane to pass a new law. We've got to make sure the president will enforce the border as it is, have him do so, and then we can make whatever reforms are necessary after that.
But Congressman, I don't want to run out of time.
Sure.
So when this comes up in the House, if it comes up in the House for $2 billion, will it pass?
I don't know. I'll spend $2 billion to enforce the border and to send people back from where they came from, but I don't think we can start this unstoppable flow of money to take care of people coming in illegally that this administration has shown it is not going to stop. It is going to bankrupt the nation if they don't stop.
Congressman, always good to talk to you, sir. Thank you very much.
Great to talk to you. Thanks so much.
My pleasure. Congressman Louis Gohmert. When we come back, folks, it's the Malzberg panel, and we'll discuss this and many other issues. So don't go away. You're watching the Steve Malzberg Show on Newsmax Television. Stay where you are.
Do you own mutual funds? 5% and not even know it. Fisher Investments isn't a mutual fund, and we don't have hidden fees. Do you own an annuity? Your broker may have made a commission of 8% or more when he sold it to you. Are you sure he had your best interests in mind? At Fisher Investments, we're not brokers, and we don't earn commissions on trades or by selling you products. With our model, as your portfolio grows, we grow.
To learn more about the Fisher Investments difference, call the number on your screen now. We'll send you our free DVD, Investing Secrets for 2014, and our special report, The 8 Biggest Mistakes Investors Make. Plus, the first 100 callers get a free 1-year subscription to Fisher Investments Stock Market Outlook, with insights from our company founder and respected market forecaster, Ken Fisher. Be prepared in 2014. Call now, 1-800-575-0066, 1-800-575-0066.
I was having trouble getting out of bed in the morning because my back hurt so bad.
The Sleep Number bed conforms to you. Wake up in the morning with no back pain.
Do you toss and turn, wake up with back pain? If so, call us now.
You'll learn how the Sleep Number bed helps relieve back pain by allowing you to adjust the firmness and support to conform to your body for a more proper spinal alignment. Just look at this research. 93% of participants experienced back pain relief. Plus, it's a great value because it costs about the same as an innerspring, yet lasts twice as long. So if you want to sleep better or find relief for your bad back, call now.
Call 1-800-976-7120 for your free information kit with brochure, price list, and models. Call now and we'll include a free $50 savings card. Call 1-800-976-7120 now for your free information and this free $50 savings card. Call now.
everybody. Light check. 1, 2, 1, 2.
Everything looks good on our end.
And lights.
Come alive with the forest. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a forest near you.
Politics, commentary, entertainment, sports, news and opinion now. Here is Steve Malzberg.
What has to be addressed is the security of the border. You know that, I know that, the President of the United States knows that. I don't believe he particularly cares whether or not the border of the United States is secure. And that's the reason there's been this lack of effort, this lack of focus, this lack of resources. The President has sent powerful messages time after time by his policies, by nuances, that it is okay to come to the United States and you can come across and you'll be accepted in open arms.
My apology for the triple audio there on the Governor Perry. Basically, what he was saying is that the president doesn't seem to care. Welcome back to the Steve Malzberg Show. It's time for the Malzberg panel, and we welcome in columnist for Breitbart.com and American thinker C. Edmund Wright, and columnist for the UK Telegraph and National Review, Tom Rogan. And gentlemen, is Governor Perry right? And what about the optics, which apparently doesn't bother the White House, of the president raising money in Texas, or as Congressman Gohmert says, sucking money out of Texas, but not going to the border? Edmund?
Well, I couldn't hear the governor's comments, but if it's similar to what he said to Martha Raddatz, which I suspect it is, he's absolutely correct. You know, this has been not only just ignored by the Obama administration, it's been coordinated by it. Steve, there are twice as many alien children that have come over in the last number of months as we had Allied troops hit Normandy back in 1944. The point being, an invasion of this size doesn't happen without coordination and planning. And this administration has coordinated this, planned this, aided and abetted it.
In my opinion,
what about it, Tom?
Yeah, it's just very interesting. You know, what I was thinking about when the governor was speaking, UK, you know, back around 2000, where illegal immigrants were crossing under the Channel Tunnel, and getting across into the UK. And it was very obvious, you know, with a problem this scale, you would expect a concerted government effort. Certainly the federal government has the power to at least introduce some kind of strategy to deal with this. But I have to agree with Edmund. You know, I think if you look at what's happening, it just seems like another example of the administration playing politics in the way that they view politics, which is a means to a short-term end, the polling data rather than policies. And even on that issue, you know, I think you see they're out of touch with where the vast majority are laughable, but more than the immigration solely, it speaks to a government that is just dysfunctional on so many levels now.
Right, and Tom, to follow up on what Louis Gohmert, was saying earlier, and that is that not only any earlier remarks he made, he said we're going to turn America into a third world nation if we don't enforce immigration laws, but he talked about bankrupting the state of Texas and bankrupting the nation. He said the schools can't handle the influx, the hospitals can't handle the influx, none of the services can handle the influx, and you know, and they keep coming.
Right, but I think what the Democratic Party has decided, at least in the short term, is that this is a useful wedge issue, and that the votes that they can get from certain elements of American society it outweighs the costs in terms of very real fiscal costs, social costs of uncontrolled illegal immigration. Now, personally, you know, I'm pro-serious immigration reform, but the idea that you wouldn't secure the border, the idea that you would allow this humanitarian situation, this degradation of government power is ludicrous.
Edmund, Gohmert also said, when I asked him if the president will get his $2 billion, he said, I'll give him $2 billion to secure the border and to send back the illegals. That's not what the president wants the money for. Do you think that this is ever going to happen?
No, it's not going to happen. Understand, what the Obama administration is doing here is they're importing liberalism, they're importing poverty, they're importing problems for the very red state of Texas, they're importing future Democrat voters. This is purely a political move, and of course they're playing on the heartstrings of the American people. Probably even had something to do with this company that's giving them toys that was, hit the internet yesterday, to turn this into a fuzzy story of children needing help when really it's a politically calculated invasion for raw political goals.
Yeah.
And Edmund, go ahead, Tom. Go ahead.
No, sorry. I was just going to say, I would add to that. I think clearly the children in this case, there is a humanitarian issue that is deeply troubling. I genuinely feel for those children, but the problem is this idea that the administration somehow cares for them is, I think that takes a lot of testing of the logical mind, because they see this in exactly the way I think Edmund puts out, that it is a political opportunity. This is not about the children or humanitarianism.
No, they use children the way Hamas uses children, which is to hide behind them and to hide their agenda behind them. Absolutely.
All right, and I wanted to ask you about the children specifically, because the director or the Secretary of Homeland Security was on Meet the Press, and he just would not say, despite the fact that David Gregory, much to my surprise, pressed him and pressed him and pressed him, he would not say the kids are going back. Edmund, I don't believe they're ever going back. That's my opinion.
No, they're not going back. They've already lined up a way the kids are going to stay here, and they're going to figure out a way to get the rest of their families here. So you can multiply times 3 or 4 the number of kids with the number of future Democrat voters and immediate welfare recipients that we're importing to the country. And of course, anyone with a heart feels for the kids, but they're being used as a pawn. But that doesn't mean that we have to sacrifice our sovereignty and our first world status, because the Obama administration's using these kids as pawns.
Yeah. Tom, they going back?
No, I have to say, I agree with Edmund. I don't think they're going back. And I think, the broader issue here, though, is you look at the politics of Central America, South America, and the growth of civil instability, crime, dysfunctional government. The administration talks a lot, this issue that perhaps America is not as special as I think most of us believe it is. I think is, look at what's happening here. It's so dysfunctional on the one side of the U.S. government, but it's also dysfunctional in the sense that why are we not condemning more openly the utter failure of liberal governance and dysfunction in Central America, which is, in my view, the key cause of this symptom?
All right, we're going to come back, guys. Stay right where you are. See Edmund Wright and Tom Rogan. And when we come back, we will discuss what's going on in Israel with the rockets being fired from Gaza and the capture of those responsible for the death of the Palestinian teenager. You want to weigh in, folks, on anything we're talking about on social media? Here is how you do it.
Pat Boone here with a word about bank safety. Do you think your money is safe in the bank? Don't bank on it. A generation ago, bank accounts felt secure and they paid interest. This encouraged the virtue of thrift and saving. But today, bank accounts pay virtually nothing, and they've shifted from low risk to high risk. For example, did you know your money deposited in most U.S. banks could be subject to limited withdrawal and even confiscation? Oh, yes. And that's just the first of 19 risks explained in a new white paper entitled Don't Bank on It. You still think your bank deposits are safe? You better get this vital new Don't Bank on It white paper now. Call the number on the screen or visit SwissAmerica.com, the gold standard. Learn how simple it is to become your own banker today.
Meet Jim. Like many of us, Jim enjoys a busy life. Between work, family, and friends, his days zip along. And Jim has the energy to tackle almost anything. But lately, Jim's Get Up and Go has literally taken on a new meaning. Jim's always put focus on a full night's sleep, but it seems like these days, he's up and down to go to the bathroom so many times he can barely wake up in the morning. His prostate concerns have him sad, tired, and worried. Activities that were once enjoyable now seem like a chore for Jim. His golf game is at the mercy of his bathroom schedule. Family outings are planned around it too. Jim even has difficulty going to the bathroom. He's tried so many prostate remedies he can't keep them straight. Nothing ever seems to help. Then Jim found out about Prostate Revive, the all-natural dietary supplement specifically formulated for men, targeted towards improving and sustaining normal prostate function. Prostate Revive includes 15 super ingredients never combined before, including saw palmetto extract, beta-cytosterol, pomegranate fruit extract, selenium, and other high-quality nutrients. These targeted and all-natural ingredients promote healthy urinary flow and optimal prostate health. And the best part is, Prostate Revive was developed by a renowned medical doctor. Dr. David Brownstein personally formulated Prostate Revive with one goal in mind, to promote a healthy prostate gland. Thanks to Prostate Revive, Jim's got his life back. He gets a full night's sleep every night, and his friends and his wife can't believe he's the same guy. He has his old energy back, and no one has to wait for him. He doesn't even think about his prostate concerns anymore. Visit MedicSelect.com to take back your nights and improve your quality of life with Prostate Revive.
Learn about our risk-free trial offer at prostaterevive.com/Jim.
Welcome back. I'm Francesca Page, and here's your Newsmax Now update. Have you ever wondered how much power the TSA has at airports outside the US? Passengers flying into the US from airports overseas will soon be asked to turn their electronic devices on instead of off. The measure comes after American intelligence officers say Al-Qaeda may be developing explosives that cannot be detected by airport security. There are no official reports that such a device exists at the moment. However, officials say the new security measures enhance aviation security. And the Vatican continues its effort to restore their reputation. Pope Francis begged forgiveness from victims of sexual abuse from the clergy in a meeting with survivors today. Francis spoke about his sorrow for the sins and grave crimes. Critics contend the Vatican has failed to properly punish the offenders. That's your Newsmax Now update. Now back to the Steve Malzberg Show.
All right, folks, sorry for the technical glitch. We're rejoined by C. Edmund Wright and Tom Rogan. And gentlemen, the situation with Hamas lobbing hundreds of rockets into Israel from the Gaza Strip. Tom, how far do you think Benjamin Netanyahu will go?
I think actually Prime Minister Netanyahu is going to take some pretty serious action. I think we're moving much more closely now than we thought we would be over the past few days to a concerted campaign by the Israeli military. And I think there are two reasons for that. Number one, Hamas has been enabling other groups, primarily Palestinian Islamic Jihad, to keep firing rockets. Hamas has control over the Gaza Strip, so if something happens there, 99% of the time they have operational, they're allowing it. But secondly, there's a lot of pressure inside the Israeli cabinet from the Israeli foreign minister, Avigdor Lieberman, and Naftali Bennett, for example, who are pushing Netanyahu for tougher action.
And Edmund, I understand there are reports that reserves are being called up. I've often wondered if Israel has it in them to eradicate Hamas the way they failed to eradicate Hezbollah.
Well, they might. As Tom mentioned, there's actually forces in the Israeli government, high up in the Israeli government, that are actually making Netanyahu look fairly dovish on this. They're actually pushing, further from the right, I guess you would call it. So, I think Israel realizes Hamas has made their policy statement on Israel pretty clear. And it's obvious they don't want peace. And I think, Israel's decided, especially with people even more hawkish than Netanyahu way up in the government, I agree with Tom. I think we'll see some pretty significant activities taking place and very soon.
Yeah,
and of course we have the. Yeah, go ahead, Tom. Yeah.
No, sorry. I was just going to say, you see with the in the failure of peace talks as well. There's always been an opportunity. Well, opportunity is the wrong word, but there's always been a wellspring of anger in the Palestinian communities. Now, what Hamas is doing in terms of the rockets is just Hamas standard fare in terms of trying to annihilate Israel. But I think there's a potential again for another a third intifada. And on the Israeli side, it's a simple national security point of view. They cannot allow rockets to be fired into their territory without answer. It's just a simple question of national defense. I think.
And you, in closing, guys, because I'm up against the clock, I wonder how long it'll take for the U.S. government to stop funding this so-called unity government, which includes Hamas. Probably that isn't going to happen under this administration. Anyway, thank you both, C. Edmund Wright and Tom Rogan. Appreciate it. Very dire situation there, folks. All right, we'll be back with the communications director for the RNC, Sean Spicer. But first, this hour's American Moment takes a look at the drafting of the Camp David Peace Accords.
Has known little peace since the beginnings of recorded history. But in September of 1978, President Sadat of Egypt, Prime Minister Begin of Israel, and President Carter of the United States set out to change that. Initiated by the Egyptian leader's proclamation that he would be willing to travel anywhere, even Jerusalem, to seek peace, President Carter persuaded the two former enemies to meet with him at Camp David to seek a lasting peace. On the 17th of September, 1978, the Camp David Accords were signed, returning the Sinai to Egypt and creating a framework by which Palestinians could have autonomous and self-governing control over the West Bank and Gaza. During the announcement, President Carter was clear more work needed to be done.
The questions that have brought warfare and bitterness to the Middle East for the last 30 years will not be settled overnight.
In 1978, President Anwar Sadat and Prime Minister Menachem Begin were awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. Jimmy Carter's Nobel Prize would come later in 2002 for his decades of work seeking solutions to international conflicts. You're watching An American Moment on Newsmax TV.
I've always seen No-No on TV and I always wondered if it worked. And it's definitely, I can see what everybody talks about now.
It's not a razor. It's not a laser. It's No-No from Radiancy, the #1 hair removal system in the world.
It's absolutely no pain.
Can't believe the difference, Al. It's almost hair-free.
No-No gives you no hair with no pain.
Well, I saw it on TV and they said it was painless, right? I didn't really believe it, but now that I'm trying it, it feels completely painless.
And now, No-No is better than ever. Introducing the new No-No Pro. It's up to 35% more powerful. Imagine never having to shave again.
I like a close shave. Absolutely. And this is better than that. I mean, it's gone.
No more facial hair. No more embarrassment.
I've always been self-conscious of my hairline, so putting my hair back, this will be perfect for me.
And for that man in your life, there's No-No for him too.
It looks like just like you've got a fresh wax, but like you don't have to go through all the pain.
Call now and we'll send you the cordless No-No Pro in your choice of colors. Featuring an LCD display, it comes with up to 5 treatment levels. Plus, we'll include everything you need to get rid of your unwanted hair. A set of thermocon tips specially designed for your face and body. A buffer pad to exfoliate and polish your skin. Plus, act now and we'll send you the No travel case as a free gift. And get this, you can try No risk-free for not 30 days, but 60 days with our triple guarantee. If you are not 100% satisfied, return it and we'll refund the purchase price, refund the shipping, and even pay the return postage. Try No risk-free today.
I need to get myself one of these right now.
Absolutely.
For your 60-day trial, go to nonopro.com or call 1-800-934-5335. That's 1-800-934-5335.
The land of the free honors the bravest of the brave for their sacred pledge to protect our freedoms, our Constitution, and our way of life. We will always remember you. We will always salute you.
Politics, commentary, entertainment, sports, news, and opinion now. Here is Steve Malzberg.
The president has asked for some money. He certainly can move some monies around, and we can handle that at the end if we want to. Again, let's keep in mind, with all due respect to the administration, they're one step behind. They should have seen this coming a long time ago. They should have seen this a long time ago because we saw those numbers increasing.
All right, folks, Democratic Congressman Cuellar from Texas. And joining us now is Sean Spicer, Communications Director for the RNC, the Republican National Committee. Hello, Sean.
Hello, Steve. How are you?
Good. Good to talk to you again. Hope you had a great weekend. A little surprising. I think the host of the show is a little surprised that a Democratic congressperson, albeit from Texas, said that the president was way behind on this issue, but I'm sure you agree.
Oh, absolutely. I think if you're down there, it's a different story. I think the problem with the administration is they sit up here in Washington, D.C. and say, they really don't have a complete understanding of what's going on down at the border, which is why I think you see people like Henry Cuellar and others just express some outrage and are concerned that the president hasn't gone down to see the problem firsthand.
Well, the White House said today they don't have a problem with the optics, and it was put to them that way. Do you have a problem with the optics of the president going to raise money in Texas but not finding time to go to the border? Louis Gohmert said the president's only interested in sucking money out of Texas and nothing else.
Well, I mean, look, this isn't the first time that there's been a bit of tone deafness when it comes to putting politics ahead of policy, but I really don't understand how you can go down there, have political fundraisers, make time for that kind of stuff, but not make a time to see something that is universally considered a crisis with this number of people coming over our border. And not just number of people, but it's the type of people, right? Which is you're seeing these children who are being sent from places in Central America up through our border, and yet it's as Henry Cuellar put it, we've known that this was coming. There's been a magnet that has been attracting them, and now the administration's saying, well, we can see plenty from Washington, D.C.
Yesterday, the Homeland Security Secretary was on Meet the Press, and David Gregory asked him once, twice, 3, 4 times, are these kids going back? And he just would not say that. Do you think that these kids, and when I say, I mean, I'm not talking about 1 or 2, I'm talking about any major part of them, any major percentage, do you think they're ever going back?
I don't know. Right, but I'll tell you, getting to your question, I watched that segment on Meet the Press, and I've never seen David Gregory follow up. I think it was 4 times, like the way he did with Jay Johnson, get such a non-answer 4 times in a row. I was somewhat amazed that it seemed like a very simple question. And the way that Secretary Johnson was answering that question was the law says that we need to begin deportation proceedings against every one of these children immediately. And David Gregory then, as you saw, would follow up by saying, okay, so they're going home, and he would say, we have to follow the law. I mean, he wouldn't answer the question. He talked about the process, but not answer the thing. And that's what gives me pause, is that It should be an easy question. You come into the country illegally. I get it. We should treat all of these young children humanely and with dignity and respect. I mean, that's the right thing to do, and that's who we are as Americans. But the law is very clear that they need to be sent back to their country of origin. And I don't know why the administration wouldn't be easily able to say that if that's what the ultimate goal was going to be. And that's what gives me some pause, is knowing that it should be such a simple answer, but it's not getting that answer when asked the question over and over again.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Let me ask you about the $2 billion that the president has requested. Louis Gohmert said, I'll give them $2 billion to secure the border and to send the illegals home. But that's not what the president wants the $2 billion for. He wants it for more, some might say, programs to take care of the illegals.
Right. And I think the bigger frustrating part is a combination of what Congressman Gohmert was saying and a combination of what Congressman Cuellar was saying, which is, one, we knew this problem was coming, right? And so we knew it was going to happen. We've seen it start to happen, and really no action was taken. The administration now is saying, I want $2 billion after we didn't deal with the problem that we knew was occurring. And that the $2 billion that we're asking for isn't going to address that problem to begin with. It's just going to deal with the people that came in. And by doing that, we're probably actually going to attract more people in. So I think there's some serious questions that have to get asked. I think Congressman Gohmert's onto something by sort of saying, if we're going to really deal with the problem, then it's money well spent. And if it's just going to take care of the folks that have already come in and potentially create a second magnet for others, then I think it's just throwing good money after bad.
Let's switch topics here for a second, because a lot of people think that, Obamacare, I don't know, that the problems have gone away. It's all died down. It's died down because it's one scandal after the other, one chaotic scene after the other, and it's gone on the back burner. But the problems with Obamacare are not. I just read a story today about a couple that had to separate. A married couple had to separate so they could get health insurance. And that's just one of many, a wide variety of problems that not only continue to exist, but they're increasing in nature.
Right. I mean, I don't think there's a day go by where you don't read or see a story on TV or read it in the newspaper or online somewhere that talks about someone who's got cancer and their premium went up, the drug's not covered, the doctor that they had is no longer able to see them. So it's a constant drip every day of one horror story after another of people that their premiums are going up. They're not able to see the doctor that they wanted. The cost for their medicine is either not is going to be prohibitive, or that the drug that they were looking for is going to be costed. And this is people with AIDS, people with cancer. And it kind of makes, it really does harken back to the question of what was this thing supposed to do? It's supposed to make healthcare more accessible and more affordable. It was called the Affordable Care Act, right? And it's done none of what it's accomplished. In fact, it's done quite the opposite. It's raised costs and wreaked havoc. And so I just, and frankly, in the case of Hobby Lobby last week, it trampled on constitutional rights and religious liberty. I mean, I'm still trying to figure out the good that really came out of this.
Yeah, well, you keep looking. But let me ask you this. We know, some of us believe that good came out of the Hobby Lobby decision, which you just alluded to. But the left is running with this, now women can't have health care. Hillary went so far, even though she said it in a very mild-mannered tone, and she didn't yell or scream like some on the left have been yelling. But what she said, bringing up that as Secretary of State, she's seen countries where women's rights are deteriorating or they never had them, and implying that that's what's happening here because of this very narrow, focused decision. Is the left going to get away with this? Is this going to be a motivation to the base come the midterms and beyond, do you believe, or are people smarter than that?
Well, I do think they're smarter than that. But, Steve, here's the thing. I fundamentally believe that the Democrats know that the only way that they can win is by scaring different segments of the population. So whether it's minorities or women, they can't appeal to a broad base of Americans, so they scare them. So let's take the case of Hobby Lobby. There are 16 types of contraception still available to anyone who works at Hobby Lobby. This is not about restricting access. This is absolutely a scare tactic. I read an op-ed by Senator Jean Shaheen of New Hampshire, where she tried to scare the people of New Hampshire by telling them that based on the ruling that they were going to lose all access to birth control. That's absolutely absurd. And I think that the problem is the left has painted themselves into such a corner by saying, like, we've scared people so much that we cannot win without them, that we've got to keep scaring them and scaring them more and more and more because we have no positive agenda for them. We've got nothing to offer, so we're just going to do this. But I think that as long as we get out there and continue to counter why this was an issue of not just constitutional overreach, but of religious freedom, most people are going to come down on our side.
Right.
And I think here's the difference, Steve. The fact when a woman goes in the next 2 months or 3 months to the pharmacy or doctor and start talking about birth control or contraception, and the doctor says, yes, this is all still available and here's what it's covered, they're going to realize that the lie that was perpetrated by the Democrats was just that, because the facts won't match the sort of the scare tactics.
Let me ask you one more. Let's play that bite. I think we have time for President Obama. This was his Saturday address on the 4th of July, about the 4th of July. Listen to this.
Hi, everybody. I hope you're enjoying your 4th of July weekend. I want to begin today by saying a special word to the U.S. men's soccer team, who represented America so well the past few weeks. We are so proud of you. You've got a lot of new believers. And I know there's actually a petition on the White House website to make Tim Howard the next Secretary of Defense. Chuck Hagel's got that spot right now, but if there is a vacancy, I promise to think about it.
And then, and only then, after that, Sean, did he mention our troops. I am outraged by that prioritization of his 4th of July address.
Well, I'll give him a little bit of credit from actually being in the United States, unlike Hillary Clinton, who spent her 4th of July overseas and then screwed up her foreign policy credentials. But look, I would be with you on the priority of it, but you know, I think there's room in a bigger message to praise our troops as well as to congratulate the U.S. soccer team.
I agree, but I think you and I both would have done it in reverse fashion. Hey, Sean,
that's right.
Always great to talk to you, sir. Thank you very, very much.
Thanks, Steve.
Take care. Sean Spicer, ladies and gentlemen. When we come back, give me 5. Don't go away.
Look how beautiful it is.
Honey, we need to talk.
We do. I took the trash out.
I know, and thank you so much for that. I think we should get a Medicare supplement insurance plan.
Right now?
Whether you're new to Medicare or not, you may know it only covers about 80% of your Part B medical expenses. It's up to you to pay the difference. So think about an AARP Medicare supplement insurance plan, insured by United Healthcare Insurance Company. Like all standardized Medicare supplement insurance plans, they help cover some of what Medicare doesn't pay.
I did a little research. With a Medicare supplement plan, you'll be able to stay with your doctor.
Oh, you know, I love that guy.
These types of plans let you visit any doctor or hospital that accepts Medicare patients, and there are no networks.
Is this a one-size-fits-all kind of thing?
No, there are lots of plan options. It all depends on what we need and how much we want to spend.
Call now to request your free decision guide. It could help you find an AARP Medicare supplement plan that's right for you.
What happens when we travel?
The plans go with us, anywhere in the country.
I like that.
You know what else? United Healthcare Insurance Company has years and years of experience. What do you say?
I'm in.
Join the millions already enrolled in the only Medicare supplement insurance plans endorsed by AARP. Remember, all Medicare supplement plans help cover some of what Medicare doesn't pay and could really save you in out-of-pocket medical costs. You'll be able to choose your own doctor or hospital as long as they accept Medicare patients. And with these plans, there could be low or no copays.
You do your push-ups today?
Prepare to be amazed.
Don't wait. Call today to request your free decision guide and find the AARP Medicare supplement plan to go the distance with you. Go long.
Hi, I'm Mike Reagan. If you're a senior or baby boomer, you may be missing out on some important information. Tens of millions of boomers are set to retire, yet many don't know that how you file your Social Security can dramatically change the amount of money you collect. That's why Newsmax created a special report offering you the best strategies to maximize your Social Security benefits. For example, this report reveals a weird trick that could help you add up to $152,000 to your Social Security payouts. It also shows how some qualifying recipients can add up to $1,000 to their monthly payments. To get your copy with our free offer, along with 7 additional money-making booklets, simply go online. Newsmax says this report is a critical resource for anyone over the age of 50. So go to our website today and find out if you qualify to add extra money to your Social Security. Remember, it's your money. You deserve the most back in your retirement.
In the small town of Elmira, New York, a boy was born into an all-American family. The odds of him opening his own clothing store at the age of 18? 1 in 138,000. Excited to be a part of pop culture, he packed for the big city. The odds of finding someone to invest in his vision? 1 in 4.5 million. The odds of him achieving his dream in the fashion industry? 1 in 23 million. The odds of having a child diagnosed with autism? 1 in 68. I am Tommy Hilfiger, and my family is affected by autism. Learn more at autismspeaks.org/signs. Early diagnosis can make a lifetime of difference.
Are you prepared to deport these children, young mothers that we're seeing in Miguel's piece and all of these images? Are you prepared to deport them?
Our message to those who come here illegally, our border is not open to illegal migration, and we are taking a number of steps to address it, including turning people around faster. We've already dramatically reduced the turnaround time, the deportation time for the adults.
All right, Homeland Security Head Johnson on Meet the Press. Welcome to Gimme 5. Some of these cuts you heard already, but I want to go in depth here. David Gregory was relentless, to his credit, to try to get the secretary to address the children. And should they be deported? Will they be deported? Here's more.
Do they need to be deported? Or I've seen some reporting suggesting that more than half of them could end up staying with families in America.
The law requires that when DHS identifies somebody as a child, as an unaccompanied child, we turn them over to the Department of Health and Human Services. But there is a deportation proceeding that is commenced against the child. Now, that proceeding can take some time, and so we're looking at options, flexibility to deal with the children in particular, but in a humanitarian and fair way.
A humanitarian and fair way is to send them back, not transport them all over the country, not keep them in the country when we don't even know what kind of shots they've had, what their health status is. More.
There is a deportation proceeding that is commenced against illegal migrants, including children. We are looking at ways to create additional options for dealing with the children in particular, consistent with our laws and our values.
I'm trying to get an answer to, will most of them end up staying, in your judgment?
I think we need to find more efficient, effective ways to turn this tide around generally, and we've already begun to do that.
Right. What does that mean? Are you saying it's impractical to deport all of them who are here now?
I'm saying that we've already dramatically reduced the turnaround time for the adults, and we're in the process of doing that for the adults with the kids.
He's not answering the question. And again, to his credit, David Gregory understands that. Watch.
Is the goal of the administration to settle as many of these kids in America as possible?
The goal of the administration is to stem the tide and send the message unequivocally that
what about the thousands of children who are here now? What is the goal of the administration? To settle them in America or to deport them back to situations that might be even life-threatening?
There is a deportation proceeding pending against everyone who comes into this country illegally and is apprehended at the border.
Yeah, so send them up to Massachusetts, because that'll get him an immigration hearing. It's insane, folks, and if you watch that interview, and what you're seeing now represents it, It's bad. As far as the people, we've seen the pictures of the buses turning the illegals away.
I look at it, and it is unfortunate to see that type of hostility directed at women and children on a bus, frankly. I do not believe that that band of individuals that you showed in your lead-in reflects Murrieta, California, and it certainly does not reflect the response we've seen across the Southwest.
But does it reflect frustration at the government? You're the head of the Department of Homeland Security for not doing more to protect the border, to enforce the nation's laws with regard to turning migrants away who are coming illegally.
The broader response across the Southwest has been very different.
I believe it does represent the feelings of the people, both there and around the country. I believe it does. I believe the Secretary is wrong, and here's finally more.
Is the priority, does it have to be that we got to do right by these children, or do we have to find a way to clamp down on the border?
Well,
what guides?
Well, there's the issue. We have to do right by the children. I have personally encountered enough of them to know that we have to do right by the children. But at the end of the day, in the final analysis, our border is not open to illegal migration, and we will stem the tide.
But the border is open to illegal migration. And when he says that the answer to the question is we have to do right by the children, what does that mean? Making them American citizens, keeping them here united with their parents, not sending them back. You mark my words. And I don't think that's a hard thing to see on the Steve Malzberg Show.
Looking for a home loan? Welcome to PennyMac, one of America's leading mortgage lenders, where all we do are home loans. PennyMac offers a neighborhood of home loan options. First-time buyers? Call PennyMac for some low down payment options as low as 3.5%. Looking for an FHA loan, jumbo loan, VA loan, or conventional loan? Call PennyMac. Want to refinance to save money? Yep, call PennyMac. Home underwater? PennyMac offers a government-sponsored HARP program that can help you reduce your interest rate. So if you're thinking home loans, PennyMac leads the pack with low rates week in and week out, so you know you're going to save money and get a fast closing. So call PennyMac now. We're probably helping some of your neighbors with their loans, and we're ready to help you too. Call the experts in home loans in the next 10 minutes to get a free $50 Home Depot gift card. Call 800-424-1956, 800-424-1956, 800-424-1956.
Endless pools are an incredible alternative to traditional pools, making it easy and inexpensive to swim at home. Call our toll-free number or visit our website. A free idea kit and DVD will be sent to your home so you can discover all the benefits of owning your own pool. Compared to traditional pools, endless pools are simple to install, easy to maintain, and economical to run. Our precision-engineered pools enable you to swim or exercise against a smooth current that adjusts to any speed and ability. Endless pools are perfect for year-round health and fitness, relaxation, and family fun. Our free idea kit and DVD will show you how easy it is for the whole family to enjoy a pool right in your backyard or home. An endless pool or an endless pool swim spa can become a showplace for your home. Call our toll-free number or visit the website to find out more about endless pools. The free idea kit will show you just how easy it is to be able to swim at home.
Welcome back, I'm Francesca Page and here's your Newsmax Now update. A federal appeals court blocked an Arizona law that denies young immigrants from receiving driving licenses today. Arizona Governor Jan Brewer signed the executive order in 2012 barring licenses for immigrants receiving federal relief and work permits. The Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals says this law harms young immigrants. President Obama used executive orders to authorize the relief program in 2012. And 3 Israeli suspects confessed to the killing of a Palestinian teenager today. The killing heightened tensions between Palestinians and Israelis in Jerusalem. Many Palestinians believe the killing was in retaliation for the deaths of 3 Israeli teens who went missing in the West Bank a few weeks ago. The suspects remain in custody, and Israeli authorities say they are cooperating with the ongoing investigation. And Israeli-Arab tensions climbed to even higher levels along the Gaza border. Israeli Defense Force released footage of their overnight airstrikes in Gaza today. Officials say the attacks concentrated on 14 terror sites. Hamas says 6 of its men were killed in the strikes and vows to retaliate. Israel is also seeing political conflict in their own ranks. The country's foreign minister announced he is ending his alliance with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu today. Avigdor Lieberman disagrees with Netanyahu's response to Hamas attacks from Gaza. The foreign minister favors a broader military operation instead of the prime minister's targeted airstrikes. That's your Newsmax Now update. Now back to the Steve Malzberg Show.
All right, hour number 2 of the Big Steve Malzberg Show, and we will go in depth on the immigration issue with the man who has written many, many, many columns about it, Ruben Navarrete Jr. He will be here. Then Jonathan Tobin, columnist and senior online editor of Commentary Magazine, and we'll talk about the situation in Israel, the Gaza rockets being fired into Israel, the retaliation, and of course the arrest of those responsible for the death of the Palestinian teenager. Then the Road to the White House segment. Republican campaign consultant and advisor Ed Rollins and CEO of InterAdvantage, Matt Towery, will join us to discuss the possible candidacy of Dr. Ben Carson. All that, give me 5 and more on this hour of the Steve Malzberg Show.
Ready? Fire away. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studio in New York City. A fusion of politics, commentary, entertainment, and sports. Steve and his team bring you the latest news and opinion now. Here is Steve Malzberg.
All right, folks, welcome back. And before we get to Ruben Navarrete, as mentioned, we will be doing the first of our series, Road to the White House. In this hour, it'll be in the second hour at this time, actually in the about 40 minutes past the hour. Every single day, Road to the White House will focus on a different potential Republican presidential candidate. And today it's Ben Carson. And as mentioned, we'll be joined by Ed Rollins and CEO of InterAdvantage, Matt Towery, and look at where Ben Carson stands in a couple of polls at this point and what he might face that might be problematic in him making a run and what advantages he might have in him deciding to run. So we'll go with Ben Carson today, and that'll be the first in our week-long series, which, by the way, I'll give you a hint, will extend into next week as well. Again, as you heard at the top of the hour in the news, some dissent within the cabinet of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on what exactly the response should be to the rockets falling from the Gaza into Israel. And I feared this. I feared that Benjamin Netanyahu would not go all out. And, you know, it's one thing to hit terrorist sites and pinpoint strikes, but it's another thing to eradicate the threat. And if you don't eradicate the threat, they're going to live to fight another day. And when missiles are constantly being fired into your sovereign nation, that's the ultimate act of war. You have a right to respond. And forget this disproportionate nonsense, which the media will talk about no matter what Israel does. So go do it. Protect your country. All right, folks. Ruben Navarrete ready to join us, but first I want us all, that means you, me, and Ruben, to listen to Texas Governor Rick Perry.
I have to believe that when you do not respond in any way, that you are either inept or you have some ulterior motive of which you are functioning from. So the issue is this president understands now that we have a huge problem on our southern border. We have to deal with it, and I don't think you're going to be able to address it until you put the resources there, and that's boots on the ground. We're asking for the FAA to allow for drones to be used. Unless we secure our southern border, this is going to continue to be a massive amount of individuals that are coming to the United States, and frankly, we don't have a place to house them.
It doesn't matter. We'll just send them to the, the Northeast or wherever the heck we could find a bus or a plane to take them. Joining us now, ladies and gentlemen, is Ruben Navarrete Jr., syndicated columnist. And welcome back, Ruben. Good to talk to you, sir.
Good to be with you, Steve. Thanks.
All right. You wrote a great piece at the Daily Beast about one of the aspects of this crisis. First of all, before we get to that, you know, Rick Perry has invited the president to come to the border. He's going to be in Texas, the president is, yet the president somehow sinister.
Right. I heard that. The White House was saying something like, you know, gee, Republicans should focus on passing immigration reform instead of these political stunts of posing these invitations to go to the border. Rick Perry is right. Barack Obama is wrong. Barack Obama should go to the border. He should have gone to the border way before now. His level of literacy about all things related to immigration and the Southwest and the borders is very, very low. And Rick Perry is right to invite him. And I thought the White House was too cute by half, trying to make this political.
All right. So talk about the piece that you wrote, and talk about the threat that a lot of people, well, I mean, I've read stories of the reason nobody's talking about this is because doctors and nurses who know about this are being threatened not to say anything.
Right. So what I wrote about for the Daily Beast were these cases of swine flu that have been discovered, not just in the population of Central American kids who are now start off along the border. I mean, let's get a sense of the numbers here very quickly. You've heard the numbers, about 55,000 kids in the last 9 months or so have come through an area of Texas between Laredo and Brownsville. To drive from Laredo to Brownsville, it's about a 3-hour drive. That entire mass of people is coming through that area. And so you have, in those 3 cities, and particularly in the McAllen area, a big population of immigrant children. There's a swine flu there. I won't say outbreak, but there are cases of it there. We've also, in its wisdom, the Department of Homeland Security has sent kids all over the country. Some of them are likely infected. There are stories coming out about them being infected in Houston and other detention facilities around the country. And the reason is they were in such a hurry to get rid of the kids and get them out and get them dispersed that I don't think adequate health checks were done. And so by the time they started discovering these cases of swine flu, it was too late to know who has the virus and where they are.
Yeah, and swine flu is just one of the threats and the problems. I mean, imagine we go to such great lengths, rightfully so, in this country. Before you could send a kid to school, and all through school, they have to get their vaccinations. They have to show it. They have to prove it. We have no idea what these kids have or what they haven't got as far as being vaccinated. And this is a huge potential health crisis.
Stephen, let me tell you, I wrote this piece that begins at the Daily Beast with a mea culpa. I'm sorry, I was wrong. I said, this is something you don't hear columnists say very often. I've written 2,000 columns in 20 years, and I haven't said I'm sorry and I'm wrong very often. I don't think I said I'm sorry, but I said I was wrong. And I was wrong to dismiss, when these stories started coming out, this question of disease among the population. And the reason was because I've been down this road before. It's always a dead end. If you go back and you take a look at American history, dating back to what Franklin said about the German immigrants in the late 1700s, what they said about the Germans, the Italians, the Irish, the Jews, and the Chinese, it's all the same. It's all about disease. They always said people were bringing in disease. It's an old story, right? They said about everybody, sometimes true, sometimes not. And I got stuck on this story that Lou Dobbs did some years ago on CNN. He was called on the carpet for it by CBS News, where he exaggerated by 1,000-fold the cases of leprosy, right? So people have been down this dirt road before, and I was a little leery when I started hearing about disease that this was something that you know, was happening. But as the cases started coming out, you have to be honest and admit that there's a problem here. And I think that's one of the problems on the left. There's lots of things the right doesn't like to admit. The left also doesn't like to admit when they're wrong.
All right, let me let you listen to a soundbite in this video of from Meet the Press yesterday, where the Homeland Security Secretary was on with David Gregory, and he, you know, basically was asked over and over and over again by Gregory what the plan is here for these kids, and he couldn't get a straight answer. Here's one of the videos.
Is the goal of the administration to settle as many of these kids in America as possible?
The goal of the administration is to stem the tide and send the message unequivocally that
what about the thousands of children who are here now? What is the goal of the administration? To settle them in America or to deport them back to situations that might be even life-threatening?
There is a deportation proceeding pending against everyone who comes into this country illegally and is apprehended at the border.
All right, I mean, and that's as much of an answer as he really got. Do you believe that this administration is really trying to stem the tide, is really intent on sending these kids back Or do you look at the circumstances of the busing and the flying these kids all over the country, talking about reuniting them with their parents in this country, saying they can't be sent back to their homeland until we could find their parents in the homeland? And when you combine that with the ad that the Department of Homeland Security took out in January, looking for chaperones for illegal children, do you believe this is all pre-planned to an extent and that they're happy with this situation at the White House?
I believe the former. I believe what you said initially, that they are very intent on deporting these kids as fast as possible and as many as possible. Here's why. There was a story that came out a couple of weeks ago about some leaked memos from the Clinton era where Bill Clinton was given advice by Rahm Emanuel, a presidential advisor at the time, that Clinton should be like Nixon on crime with regard to immigration. He should ramp up deportations. That's exactly the strategy that Hillary Clinton exhibited when she said very glibly during a CNN interview, we got to send all these kids home. It's the same strategy that Barack Obama, who, by the way, had Rahm Emanuel as his chief of staff in the first term, has employed in deporting 2 million people in 5 years. Understand this about Barack Obama. He has no principles. He has no soul. He will throw his own mother under a bus if she gets in the way. It's politically expedient to get rid of this problem. The way you get rid of this problem is not by settling these kids. You'll be hearing about this for years. It's about speeding up deportations, which is why Obama has asked Congress for $2 billion to speed up deportations, to circumvent due process and send these kids back to Central America as fast as possible. They won't send them all back, but they want to send a lot of them back. And you know why? Because Barack Obama only cares about one thing. He's a lawyer with one client, Barack Obama.
And do you, so let's finish up here, Ruben, and tell me when you think that the tide will be stemmed. When will these kids stop coming across the border, and when will they go back?
Well, they're going to keep coming for, I think a long, long time, and a lot of people do for maybe the next year or two. It's a frightening thought, but it's going to keep happening until the cartels who are making a lot of money smuggling these people across, $8,000 a head. They've made probably somewhere in the neighborhood of $400 million in this last surge, until they see a disincentive to bringing people across, until they are caught and punished and their profit margin is cut into. But as long as this is like hitting a slot machine, they're going to keep going into the casino and they're going to keep pushing people across the border, and it's going to be happening a long time. And Obama's going to do all he can to deport these people as fast as he can because he doesn't want them here. And Obama's never been a friend to immigrants. With Obama, you have to forget what he says and focus on what he does. And what he does, his actions speak very clearly that he's a part of the restrictionist wing of the Democratic Party that believes you've got to get rid of immigrants because they hurt U.S. workers. Just like Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, Rahm Emanuel, they all believe it. It's all the same songbook. They're not a friend to Latinos. They're not a friend to immigrants. The right wing has it completely wrong. Every time they talk about Obama amnesty, are you kidding me? Obama's never supported amnesty. The one time he was in the Senate, he voted against amnesty. He helped kill it. So, Latinos have it upside down, but so do conservatives.
Well, I don't agree with you. I think Obama, that statistic about deportations is very misleading. He's letting kids stay here. He wants to let all the kids stay here. I don't believe they're going back. I bet if a year from now we'll see that hardly any have gone back. And I think it's as you pointed out, very scary situation. But Ruben, I love to disagree with you when I can, but I agree with a lot of what you had to say today as well. Thanks for coming on, my friend.
Thanks, my friend.
Take care. Ruben Everett Jr., ladies and gentlemen. As they say on Seinfeld, JFK Jr., or as Elaine said that, I guess. Anyway, very interesting conversation. Now, when we come back on the Steve Malzberg Show, columnist and online senior editor of Commentary Magazine, Jonathan Tobin, will be here. We have a lot to talk about with him. Don't go away. You're watching Newsmax Television, Steve Malzberg Show.
When you fall and cannot get up, an accident can turn into a tragedy. But with Life Alert, one touch of a button can get you help fast.
This is Life Alert. Are you okay? I'm calling for help right now.
Life Alert saves a life from a catastrophe every 10 minutes.
Thanks to Life Alert, I can have peace of mind and continue my independence.
For a free Life Alert brochure, call 1-800-896-9904. That's 1-800-896-9904. Call now at 1-800-896-9904 to get a free brochure. 1-800-896-9904.
Do you own mutual funds? You may be paying fees and costs of up to 5% and not even know it. Fisher Investments isn't a mutual fund, and we don't have hidden fees. Do you own an annuity? Your broker may have made a commission of 8% or more when he sold it to you. Are you sure he had your best interests in mind? At Fisher Investments, we're not brokers, and we don't earn commissions on trades or by selling you products. With our model, as your portfolio grows, we grow.
To learn more about the Fisher Investments difference, call the number on your screen now. We'll send you our free DVD, Investing Secrets for 2014, and our special report, The 8 Biggest Mistakes Investors Make. Plus, the first 100 callers get a free 1-year subscription to Fisher Investments Stock Market Outlook, with insights from our company founder and respected market forecaster, Ken Fisher. Be prepared in 2014. Call now, 1-800-575-0066, 1-800-575-0066.
Hart, what's going on? I'm leaving. Why? What did I do? Not enough. The pressure's too much. I quit. I get it. I can do better. Just please don't leave.
Don't let your heart quit on you. Get your uncontrolled high blood pressure to a healthy range before it's too late.
Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studio in New York City, here is Steve Malzberg.
Well, we have strong suspicions that there are nationalistic motives behind these crimes. We'll just have to wait. In the next few hours, all the facts will be given to the public. But as you heard, the Prime Minister said he was going to bring the perpetrators to justice very quickly, and he has. One thing I can assure you, Shannon, that if these are Jews who are going to be prosecuted to the full extent of the law, if they perpetrated these crimes, they will not be hailed as heroes by Israeli political leaders. There will not be public squares in Israel that will be named after them. Little schoolboys and schoolgirls in Israel will not emulate them as heroes, and that's exactly what we have on the Palestinian side.
And the Israeli ambassador to the United States just differentiating the two societies, the Israeli society and the Palestinian society. Joining us now is Jonathan Tobin, columnist and senior online editor of Commentary magazine. Jonathan, of course, since that interview from the Israeli ambassador, or done with the Israeli ambassador, we now have suspects that have been captured by the Israelis, that are Israelis, that are Jewish, that have been, 3 of them, I believe, have confessed to the crime of kidnapping and burning the body of the Palestinian teenager. And to show further the difference between the two governments and societies, Benjamin Netanyahu called the father of the little boy and swore that justice will be done. Of course, on the other side, the 3 teens who were murdered, the Israeli teens, their kidnappers are still at large, and I haven't heard the State Department demand an explanation from the Palestinians on the young man with the dual citizenship who was killed.
Yeah, you're right. Obviously, there is a terrible disconnect here. Now, let's first, state up front. These are 2 terrible tragedies. The loss of the Arab teenager is as terrible and as much to be grieved as the loss of the 3 Jewish teenagers who were kidnapped and then murdered by Hamas.
Absolutely.
The ambassador obviously drew a very clear moral distinction between these 2 acts, which is, on the one hand, the kidnapping of the 3 Jewish teenagers was widely cheered in Arab social media by the Palestinians. They all thought it was a good thing. This was something heroic, something that furthered their national struggle and had the sort of a consensus support. Mahmoud Abbas, the Palestinian leader, actually got into trouble with a lot of his constituents for saying that it wasn't a good thing. What's happened with the 1 Arab teenager who was murdered by these despicable people who did this is that this is something that is condemned by the overwhelming majority of Israelis, and it is something, and as one of our writers on Commentary said this morning, they're not going to be exchanged, for any Palestinians. They're going to stay in jail, and but even as we make these clear moral distinctions, the problem is that it muddies the waters, and it allows the Palestinians to claim, hey, we're the same as the Israelis, they're no better than us, and that this is just tit for tat. Well, there's a grain of truth in there, and that obviously, two murders, murders are bad no matter who's doing them. But what the Palestinians are doing is exploiting this crisis and exploiting this crime. Because in the last few days, 150 missiles have been shot by Hamas.
Well, that's the other issue. And by the way, of course, Abbas, he denounced the murder of the 3 Israeli teens, but that's because he had to. If they ever find out who did it, and if they were ever let out of jail, he'll name a soccer stadium after them, the way he's greeted the terrorists who have come home, who have the blood of Israeli children and women all over their hands. He hugs them, he kisses them, and then they name called them martyrs and name stadiums after them. So
right.
It's all a front, it's all a joke, it's all ridiculous. But it's only possible with a media that calls it tit for tat, that calls it back and forth, that equates the two as exactly the same. When you're right, the big issue here is that rockets are falling, I think 300 in the past few days, from the Gaza Strip into Israel, purposely, an act of war, and Israel has responded. But as you write in your piece, it's not the moment for restraint against Hamas. But I don't know that Israel has or ever had or ever will have the stomach to finish off Hamas like they didn't have the stomach to finish off Hezbollah.
Well, that's quite true. It's a complicated matter, and I don't envy Benjamin Netanyahu his dilemma with this, as with many of his dilemmas, because, quite frankly, Hamas is gaining from this crisis. Hamas committed a terrible murder. Their people murdered 3 Jewish kids in cold blood, acting on behalf of their goals. Yet they are the political winners in this, because it allows them to show Palestinians that they're the ones who are fighting, who are killing Israelis. And the sad thing is that the dynamic of Palestinian politics has never been one where the peacemakers got the advantage. It's always been the people who killed the most got the advantage.
And now Jonathan, you could blame the United States too.
Get back.
You could blame the United States too, because they're supporting this so-called unity government in the face of the killings by Hamas.
That's right. The United States had a chance to brush back the Palestinian Authority and to say, you're not going to get any more money from us as long as you're partnering with these Hamas terrorists. And this isn't a figure of speech. The United States government still considers Hamas rightly to be a terrorist organization, yet they are in partnership with Abbas, and they're the ones who are committing these acts of terror, as well as shooting across a border into Israel, and they're getting away with it. And what Netanyahu fears, that's why this is such a tough choice, this is why the leaders get paid the big bucks, is that he also knows that if he launches even a large-scale strike into Gaza, that Hamas will immediately gain more political leverage vis-a-vis Abbas, will get more popular among Palestinians, especially even in the West Bank. And he's worried about doing that. It's like there are no good options here for Israel.
Well, I know, but
you rightly say Israel should try to finish Hamas the way it didn't finish Hezbollah. Yet I think a lot of people in the Israeli government don't think that that's an option. They don't think the Americans will let them, and they're not sure how they would even do it, because they don't want to go back and and go back and be in control of Gaza.
I know. I just know that if the Allies had fought World War II this way, I'd be speaking, well, I wouldn't be here, but if I were here, we'd all be speaking German right now in the United States.
This is not the way to win a war.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely. Hey, Jonathan, great talking to you, sir. As always, thank you very much, and keep up the good work.
Thanks for having me on.
Thank you. Jonathan Tobin, ladies and gentlemen. It's difficult. No doubt it's difficult. Because if Israel were to try to annihilate Hamas, civilians would die. But it's the civilians who elected Hamas in the Gaza Strip. They're launching rockets. Imagine Mexico or Canada was launching rockets into the United States every day. Would we sit back? Would we do nothing? Would we launch pinprick responses? Or would we go all out and stop the bombing? I don't know. We're coming back with more. Don't go away.
Excuse me. What do you think you'd pay for this smartphone?
A few hundred.
That's top of the line. More like $425. More like $9.
What? That's not possible.
It is on DealDash.com. See, DealDash.com is the fair and honest bidding site. This top-of-the-line laptop, went for around $40.
That can't be. Incredible.
I know. Everyone says it's too good to be true.
But it's true. DealDash.com gets people real savings every day, big savings. And if you're not satisfied, you get your money back. On DealDash.com, professional cameras sell for as low as $15. $50 gift cards go for $20. Laptops can be had for less than $10. And shipping is always free. It's perfect for gifts or just everyday necessities. Visit DealDash.com today and start bidding.
Is this from Deal Dash?
Uh-huh.
How much?
You don't want to know.
DealDash.com. See how much you can save.
Attention parents and grandparents of young children. Have you received this special notice from Gerber Life? If not, you're urged to call this toll-free number now because Gerber Life is accepting applications for their affordable grow-up plan. It's easy to help your child get off to a good financial start for just pennies a day. Free information will be sent to parents and grandparents who call now. Or you can apply right now over the phone if you'd like. The Grow Up Plan gives your child $10,000 in whole life insurance protection now, then doubles automatically to $20,000 later at no extra cost. Later on, your child can buy more, up to $100,000 in total protection, regardless of their health or job, 10 times the original amount. The Grow Up Plan also builds cash value over time that you can borrow from later. Help give your child a head start for just pennies a day. Don't wait. Call now for free information.
Call 1-800-417-7939. Call now for your free information or go to growupplan.com now.
US Med has great news for anyone living with diabetes.
If you have Medicare, private insurance, or prescription drug coverage, US Med will ship a new glucose meter right to your home.
And shipping is free.
My new meter uses only a speck of blood, so it's less painful than my previous meter.
If you have Medicare, private insurance, or prescription drug coverage, you're covered with US Med. We're welcoming new patients, even if your current provider can't supply you anymore.
I don't even have to test on my fingers anymore. I can test on my hand or forearms, and it's more accurate than my old meter.
So call US Med today, and you'll have a choice of 2 great meters.
One that actually speaks your results, or a meter so small it fits on the bottle of strips.
Act now, and US Med will include a free prescription discount card. We'll also send you a free diabetes cookbook. This is your opportunity.
So call US Med today.
You'll be glad you did.
Welcome back. I'm Francesca Page, and here's your Newsmax Now update. The 3 suspects confessing to killing a Palestinian boy reacted to the incident for authorities today. The 16-year-old was abducted and burned to death. Many Palestinians believe the crime was a revenge killing for 3 Israeli teenagers found dead last week. The incident has intensified tensions in Israeli-Arab relations. And funerals were held in Gaza today for 6 men killed in Israeli airstrikes last night. Officials are calling the deadliest fight so far in recent round of attacks. Israel said the strikes targeted 14 terror sites that included concealed rocket launchers. Hamas is vowing revenge. That's your Newsmax Now update. Now back to the Steve Malzberg Show.
All right, folks, welcome back to the Steve Malzberg Show. Don't forget, coming up, the road to the White House is next, featuring the prospects of Ben Carson. So you're not going to want to miss that. But first, a few items. In Seattle, their business community, there's an effort underway, and they have gotten the amount of signatures that they need to get this on the ballot in November, provided there's no fraud in the signatures. I think they needed over 16,000 signatures, and what they've gotten is over 19,000 signatures, because the city of Seattle has instituted to phase in a $15 an hour minimum wage. Now, you know, $15 an hour is a pretty good wage for flipping burgers, considering I must have made about $2 or something like that when the minimum wage was. So we'll keep you updated on the effort to get that on the ballot in Seattle in November. We'll see if the signatures all pan out. Like I said, they've gotten 3,000 more than the 16,000 and change that they needed. It's only a question of whether or not they're all legit. And if that gets on the ballot, we'll see how the people of Seattle vote on that, because it's only going to cost jobs. And speaking of jobs, we saw the jobs numbers, and we heard that for the, I forget how many months in a row, and it's the best since 2008 or whatever, or 2007 or 9, I forget, but in many years, jobs have been created over, however many it is. You heard them touting that last week. I don't remember the particulars, but here's what I remember. Whatever the particulars are, doesn't matter. You heard the left going crazy, and it is good that jobs are being created. It's not nearly enough, but here's the deal. And I heard this point. The jobs are being created. The jobs are being created. Was it Larry Kudlow? Might have been Larry. Was it Larry Kudlow? Might have been Larry Kudlow, who we're going to speak to, I think, tomorrow. The jobs are being created as extended unemployment benefits go bye-bye. Remember the gloom and doom and, oh my God, if we don't extend the unemployment benefits past 99 weeks or whatever, people are going to be starving in the streets. Well, that quietly came and went. I'm sure there are some people who are suffering. I'm sure there are a lot of people suffering. But the fact of the matter is, jobs have been created. The unemployment rate has gone down, if you want to argue the left's point. And what's happened in combination with that? Well, unemployment benefits have run out for millions of people. So you figure that out. Okay? And we'll talk more about that with Larry Kudlow, I believe, tomorrow. Then, on the issue of immigration and returning the illegal children who are coming into the country even as we speak, there's a bill in Arizona, and it's Congressman Matt Salmon's bill. It's actually not a bill in Arizona. It's Congressman Matt Salmon from Arizona. It's his bill, okay? And he's going to propose legislation that will allow the government to take immediate action and return the Central American illegal child immigrants apprehended at the border back to their home countries. Not give them a hearing. The immigration courts are overrun. They're backed up. These kids get sent now. They're housed, or they're put in some facility, or they're sent around the country to be put in some facility. We don't know if they've gotten their shots. We don't know what diseases they might have. And how many years is it going to take for them to get a hearing? Or maybe never. So this would circumvent that. This would change the law to allow them to just get sent back immediately. Immediately. And I guarantee you this is something the administration will not support. I promise you. All right, folks, we are coming back with the road to the White House, so don't go away.
Heart disease is the biggest killer disease in America, and this doesn't surprise me. We are addicted to starches, sugars, fatty meat. Even countries with little heart disease eat very differently. One way some people stay heart healthy is by following what is known as the caveman or Stonehenge diet, so named because of its similarity to the way our prehistoric ancestors ate. People who follow this type of diet live off local fruits and root vegetables and get their protein mostly from fish and wild game they shoot themselves. Now, since most of us don't hunt or fish for all our protein, here are some simple tips on how you can start to eat like a caveman, modern day style. First, fill up on fruits and vegetables. Eat them first and you'll be less hungry. Feast on fish, which is rich in nutrients but not in calories. Choose fatty fish like mackerel, herring, sardines, and salmon, which are rich in heart-healthy omega-3 fatty acids. Get out and go for a walk. Remember, our ancestors were hunters and gatherers, so they didn't spend their time sitting in front of a TV or computer all day. If you live more like a caveman or a cave woman, your heart will love you for it. I'm Dr. Chauncey Crandall, and thank you for watching this Heart Health Minute. Remember, it's never too late to prevent or reverse heart disease. Right now, I invite you to discover your own risk for heart disease or even a heart attack by taking my quick, free online quiz at www.simpleheart.
How long have you had your car insurance?
How long have I had my car insurance? I don't know, 8, 10 years?
I couldn't tell you, but things were a lot less expensive back then.
If you're 50 or over, you should take a new look at your auto insurance. You may be overpaying.
Actually, that makes a lot of sense. Old policy, old rates.
And thanks to your experience behind the wheel, you might save $404 by switching to the AARP auto insurance program from the Hartford. Plus, you'll get benefits that reward your driving record, like our promise that you won't be dropped.
Wait, you won't drop me? Seriously?
That's right, you won't be dropped. And if you know anyone who's been dropped by their insurance company, you know that's a hassle you don't need.
Especially these days.
Plus, you'll get Recover Care, which helps pay for everyday needs like house cleaning, lawn care, and pet services if you're injured in an accident.
So my auto insurance is going to help pay the house cleaning if I'm injured?
Did you say lawn care?
And if I can't walk my dog, they'll help me pay someone to do it for me.
Call the number on your screen to switch to the AARP auto insurance program from the Hartford and be rewarded for your experience behind the wheel.
Recover Care, auto insurance that helps take care of me. Now I've seen it all. You won't drop me, you take care of me as well as my car, and you offer savings to switch. It's unbelievable.
If you're 50 or over, call now to request your free quote.
I'm gonna call.
I'm calling.
I'm calling.
I'm calling.
Call the Hartford at the number on your screen to request your free quote. 1-888-529-1797. We'll even send you this free calculator. Call 1-888-529-1797 now. Why wait?
My name is J.D. Hayworth, and I'm employed as anchor analyst at Newsmax TV. As a free people, as Americans, there can be a unity of purpose, but it's not always unanimous. I believe what we have a chance to offer is a key choice. If you want a perspective, independent, American, original, free, it'll be here at Newsmax TV.
Politics, commentary, entertainment, sports, news and opinion now. Here is Steve Malzberg.
What are we dealing with in this country right now? Two different philosophies. One philosophy, which was the original one, that this is a country for, of, and by the people, where we encourage, personal freedom, entrepreneurship, innovation. The other one is one where we're for, of, and by the government, where the government creates a, quote, utopia, unquote, where we take care of everybody's needs, but we control their lives as well. This has been tried many times before. This utopian vision. The same thing always happens. You develop a very small elite class, a rapidly shrinking middle class, and a gigantically expanding dependent class.
All right, folks, welcome to the road to the White House. I'm Steve Malzberg, of course, and that was Ben Carson sitting in this studio with me not too long ago, describing his vision for America and of America. And the question is today, will he run, should he run, and what will his chances be? Joining us to talk about this, Republican campaign consultant and advisor Ed Rollins and CEO of Insider Advantage, Matt Towery. Hello, gentlemen. Let me put up a poll, if I might. It's a Rasmussen poll, and it shows Hillary Clinton and Ben Carson head-to-head. And it's Hillary 45, Ben Carson 38. And that is, or was, and still is, I guess, the closest, the best performance against Hillary. Rick Perry had 36%, Ted Cruz had 37%. So it's all, almost the same. But Carson did poll the best, according to Rasmussen, against Hillary. Ed, let me ask you, do you think that Ben Carson would make a viable Republican presidential candidate?
I think Dr. Carson is an extraordinary man, and I'm glad we have him out there talking about big issues. I think when you get into presidential politics and you get into presidential politics in a crowded field like we are, it's going to be very, very difficult for him to be able to raise the money or the resources. There's a great quote in the book Blood Feud, and it's from Richard Neustadt, who's one of the great political sciences. And he talks about presidential power from the book Presidency. The presidency is no place for amateurs. Experienced politicians of extraordinary temperament need to be the ones that run. Unless you have acquired that new experience in political office, presidency is for men of politics. It's not for every politician. My sense today is we've just tried this experiment. We had a very effective campaigner and a terrible president. And that doesn't mean that Dr. Carson should be tagged by that. But his experience, obviously, has been in a very particular area. It's medicine. He's been an extraordinary surgeon, was a brilliant, brilliant surgeon. He has a very powerful message. But in the candidacy and in dealing with trying to get elected and to win primaries and caucuses and raising $1 billion or more, which is what it'll take to beat Hillary Clinton, is a long, hard road, and I just don't think he can do it.
Matt, where do you stand on the doctor getting into the race?
Well, I sort of agree with Ed. It's very intriguing, and obviously what he has to say is yes. Can you hear me?
Ed, let's put up on the screen. You mentioned money, Ed, until we get Matt.
They can't hear me.
Matt, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Hi, Matt. Okay, okay.
You have
So
me?
I'm sorry for the technical difficulty. Yeah, have you now? So, do you agree with Ed, sir?
Great. I do agree with Ed. I quite frankly, let's look at it this way. Several decades ago, I was in a state House of Representatives, then went on to other things. Barack Obama served in the legislature and in just a few years in the U.S. Senate went on to the presidency. But in being in politics, even just those few years in the Senate, he was knocked around enough to be ready to run for president. The Republican Party, and Ed knows this, can tell better than anyone, just doesn't have a history of giving the nomination to many folks who have not either been a U.S. Senator, a congressman, a governor, or a general in a major war, such as Dwight Eisenhower. It's just really tough business out there. I like what he has to say. It's very compelling, but it'd be very difficult to see him making it through the primaries.
Yeah, let's put up on the screen. We have compiled a list of what some of the obstacles, in addition to what Ed brought up as money and what you've just alluded to. Some of them are on that list, and we're talking about money. I guess that's first and foremost. But female and minority votes. Let's go with that. I mean, you know, Ben Carson, and I love him. I think he's great, and I love talking to him, and I think he resonates with a great percentage of the population. But having said that, he also makes news by what he says, and that's not always good for a presidential candidate. For instance, he likened abortion in America to human sacrifice of paganism, and Obamacare is worse than slavery. So let me ask you, Matt, if he were to throw his hat into the ring, you know, if he were to become the candidate, let's say, how would blacks and women react to him?
Well, there's always a fascination on the Republican side with running an African American, or so there'll be a lot of novelty. That was the case with Herman Cain. The problem is when you get into a general election, worry to make it. You get into a general election, worry to make it to that point. It's a very difficult road trying to move African American voters away from the Democratic Party. And as far as women go, they're the critical swing vote. We see it in poll after poll nationwide. And we're seeing women, when the economy gets better, women tend to drift a bit more, independent women tend to be more to the center of the dial. And so issues like abortion become more important. We're starting to begin to see that again. I think he'd have some trouble in a national election were he a nominee. Don't want to discount him. Anything can happen. And Lord knows I predicted for 30 years the wrong person at the wrong time. So it's probably the best news Ben Carson could have. But I just think it would be very tough.
Ed, women, minorities?
Well, I think the critical thing here is as I said earlier, I think he's an extraordinary human being. I think it's important to have his voice in the game. But presidential politics are very, very tough. And it's not like we have a void of candidates this time. We've got very serious candidates. We're going to have 5 or 6 governors, big states and smaller states. We're going to have a couple of senators who are going to run Tea Party and establishment. And my sense is that our party is not going to turn to someone that they don't know and doesn't have a familiarity with, no matter how powerful his message is. I watched Ronald Reagan. I started with Ronald Reagan many, many years ago. I saw him the first couple of years where he struggled after being a great communicator and a great leader of the conservative movement. The first couple of years he was governor. He learned and became extremely accomplished by the time he became president. Had a very clear goal of what he wanted to do, but he had learned primaries and caucuses beginning in Iowa and New Hampshire and South Carolina is as rough and tough as any game there is. Is as rough and tough as any game there is. And I've been around 9 presidential campaigns. So my sense is that there may be a novelty to him. He certainly is an articulate man, but he has such a limited background when it comes to actual politics that I think to a certain extent the things he will say, whoever the Republican nominee is going to be pro-life, so he may get extreme by some of the things he says beyond being just pro-life, and I don't think that necessarily helps him. Equally as important, most African Americans who overwhelmingly supported this president, overwhelmingly support Democrats, have a tendency not to basically be attracted to Republican candidates and have a tendency to somewhat turn more fiercely against conservatives, as we've watched Ken Blackwell and others in the past. So my sense is it's just a long, hard road. It'll be interesting to see if he does run. I think it'd be much better if he got appointed, we win the presidency, he becomes the Health and Human Services Surgeon General, something like that, where he has expertise and very legitimate.
Well, that was going to be my next question, actually, Ed, and thanks for addressing it. Let me go to Matt for that. I was going to say, what role can he play, or do you think he would be beneficial to the Republican Party if he did play in the presidential race for 2016, or if a Republican were to win the White House, would he be in the cabinet? Matt?
Well, to Ed's point, he probably would be well served to take this time period. He actually gave an interview just a few days ago to an entity and said, basically, why would anyone want to be president of the United States? Look how they look after 2 years. So I'm not sure he has the fire in the belly that really is needed to run in the first place. But if he really wants to get his message across, he can play a role as a surrogate in this next campaign and very easily become a major national surrogate in the presidential campaign once we have a nominee. And then he could be lifted on to the possibility of some role in the cabinet, something related, obviously, to Health and Human Services or whatever, where he has an expertise. I could see that easily.
Ed, do you think at this point, because he's told me that even it's up to God, and even if God, tells him, he's not going to speak to him. He didn't want to imply that he's, crazy or anything. But if God decides that he should run, and therefore, makes him want to run, even then he wouldn't want to be president. And I thought that was very strange. Do you think he's sincere? Do you think it's more about selling books and increasing the brand appeal at this point?
I take him at his word. I think he's a very serious man who obviously had an extraordinary career at Johns Hopkins. There's several candidates in this race that God's going to talk to. Mike Huckabee, Rick Perry, others who basically have made exactly the same kind of statement. I'll see what God counsels me on. God may have many candidates, or God may basically be dealing with other things around the world. I think he's a sincere man. I think he's naive about politics. I think he's obviously out with a bestseller book right now. He's got a voice that's an important voice to be heard in the country. But I think as a presidential candidate, I think at the end of the day, he won't enhance his reputation. He probably tarnishes it somewhat.
All right, gentlemen, I really appreciate you weighing in. Ed Rollins, who, of course, ran the Huckabee campaign, and the CEO of Insider Advantage, Matt Towery. Thank you both for being present on the premiere edition of The Road to the White House. Thank you. All right, folks, tomorrow, same time, same place, we take a look at another potential Republican presidential candidate on the road to the White House. Don't miss it. Give Me 5 is next.
Are you feeling tired, run down, low on energy? Well, you could be just like millions of Americans whose thyroid gland isn't functioning the way it's supposed to. Well, now there's hope to change all of that. Introducing Actilin. Actilin is a premium nutritional supplement designed to support optimal thyroid function. Actilin has 17 powerful ingredients that support adrenal health, thyroid function, energy, and your immune system. Actilin was formulated by the renowned holistic practitioner, Dr. David Brownstein. And now, for a limited time, you can get a free bottle of Actilin with our special offer. You pay only for shipping and handling. Act right now and get Dr. Brownstein's free special report, A Doctor's Guide to a Healthy Thyroid. Get Actilin and the special report. Sign up today at getactilin.com. That's getactilin.com. Or call us at the number below.
Tired of mops that can't reach the dirt? Do you hate wringing out mops with your bare hands? Oh, no! Is your mop a dirty, disgusting mess? Well, no more. It's time to meet the incredible Hurricane 360 Spin Mop System, the only mop and bucket that spins the dirt away. The mop head spins to pick up the most dirt gets into corners and around toilet bowls. The super absorbent head picks up 10 times its weight in dirty, disgusting liquid, traps it inside, and doesn't drip. To clean it just spins the dirt away, and you will never touch dirty, disgusting mop water again. But the magic of the Spin Mop keeps on coming. The Hurricane 360 Spin Mop picks up dust and dirt at the same time, and it works on any hard surface and will never scratch or leave streaks. Its amazing bucket just can't be beat. Just dunk and spin. There's nothing else like it, guaranteed. No more touching dirty, disgusting mops, and no more getting on your hands and knees. Get the only mop that features spinning action and the revolutionary spinning bucket that cuts your cleaning time in half. Get the Hurricane 360 Spin Mop system for just 2 payments of $19.99. You'll also get a Sticky Buddy, the reusable sticky roller that picks up pet hair and lint and washes clean in seconds. You can take advantage of our limited time 2-for-1 pick it up special and get a second Spin Mop set. Just pay additional shipping and fee. You get it all: 2 spin mops, 2 mop heads, 2 revolutionary spinning buckets, and 2 Sticky Buddies for just 2 easy payments of $19.99. And we'll upgrade you to free priority handling. So don't wait. Order now.
Call 1-800-611-4362. That's 1-800-611-4362 to get your Hurricane Spin Mop double offer. So hurry and call now at 1-800-611-4362. That's 1-800-611-4362.
Life can hit you with the unexpected. Forcing you to make difficult decisions. Leaving you feeling helpless. You don't have to lose your home. It's time to take control. The National Foundation for Credit Counseling can help. The NFCC is a nonprofit organization that has been providing quality financial counseling and education for 60 years. Our national network of community-based member agencies have helped millions of consumers with foreclosure prevention. Seek advice from our certified housing counselors today. Call us or visit mortgagehelpnow.org. Real solutions for real people.
Your wacky uncle, or your Ted Cruz-loving neighbor, or your cousin who watches Fox News all day might swing by for a burger or dog. But don't worry, I've got you covered. It's time for Reverend Al's July 4th barbecue tips.
I'm so sorry, folks, as I welcome you to Give Me 5 that we didn't present this to you prior to the 4th of July. So your crazy uncle or your neighbor who watches Fox News all day could have been appropriately dealt with, according to Al Sharpton. He presented this on his show on MSNBC, and I guess you could call this the entertainment portion of the Steve Malzberg Show. Whenever we focus on Al, it's always entertaining. Here's more.
Barack Obama is a socialist. He believes in socialism.
We have a president who wants to turn America into another European-style social welfare state.
President Obama and his socialist policies must be stopped.
Ah, the classic socialist line. But you'll have the cold hard facts to go with those cold ones. There's been 52 straight months of private sector job growth under President Obama. The United States is on pace for the best year of job creation since 1999. And on Wall Street, it was a record-breaking day. The Dow Jones crossed 17,000 for the first time ever. Look at this jobs picture. You can see the surge under President Obama.
The hard facts to go with this I don't know what he said. I don't even understand what he said, to be honest with you. But that's okay. We'll put it in the blooper reel next time. I guess it was well, whoever did it. We always bring you those Sharpton blooper reels. Anyway, you got that? I want you to arm yourself next time your crazy uncle or your Ted Cruz loving neighbor comes your way knocking at your door. Be armed with the Al Sharpton facts. Here's more.
But as your neighbor digests that, your cousin might start up on health care.
Obamacare is the biggest job killer in this country.
The worst thing that has happened in this nation since slavery. And it is, in a way, it is slavery.
I think our position is very clear on the laws of train wreck.
First tip, look up and point. The sky's still there. It didn't fall like conservatives predicted. Over 8 million Americans of all ages have signed up. The uninsured rate is at a new low, the lowest since Gallup started tracking in 2008. The Affordable Care Act is not a job killer. Just see the first tip.
Right. Remember, the Affordable Care Act is not a jobs killer. It's a good thing. So many people are. I just read a story today where a couple had to separate so that they could keep their health care under Obamacare. That's a good thing, Al. Remember, repeat, Obamacare is a good thing. Too bad the rest of the country doesn't agree with you, Al, but then again, they rarely do. More.
With that one out of the way, get ready for the fireworks. No, not the ones in the sky. I'm talking about the family fireworks. Uncle Frank might uncork this one.
Believes somehow that he's become a monarch or an emperor that can basically ignore the law and do whatever he wants.
President Obama doesn't want to be bothered with the niceties of democracy in our constitutional system. He just wants to decree it.
He said that let's make this a year of action, and then he declared himself King Obama.
Oh, the Reverend Al has an answer to that one, too, when your crazy uncle comes a-knocking. Just watch.
Since the beginning of the 20th century, President Obama has the least amount of executive orders. You can see this chart. Way at the end is President Obama. And yes, that means less than George W. Bush. So now you've grilled your conservative friends like you've grilled that last piece of chicken. Give them one grand finale by saying, nice try, but we got you.
All right, Al's got us. Of course, the whole objection to Obama is his lawlessness, recklessness, his enforcement, his selective enforcement of laws that are already on the books. A president can't say, we will not deport, we will not enforce this part of immigration reform, we will not enforce this part of a law on the books regarding welfare reform, which Clinton signed into law. We will not enforce this part of my own health care law. That's the monarch part of it, Al. But good try.
I've got a small business, and everybody said you should be promoting it with Facebook.
Well, I use Facebook for myself, but I had no idea how to use it for my plumbing business.
Then I heard about web.com.
They told me they would build a professional Facebook page for my business free.
So I gave them a call.
And then they built me a Facebook page for free. I couldn't believe it.
If you call web.com now, you can have a new Facebook page built for your small business free. We even write posts for your Facebook page that will get people talking about you.
It's like I have this whole big social media department for my business.
Call now and web.com will build your new Facebook page free. Then we'll continue to bring you new fans, write posts for you, and report on results, all for one low monthly fee. If not, cancel and pay nothing.
Now people call me and say, I found you on Facebook. How cool is that?
You say it, we build it free.
Call 1-855-235-7998 today.
Hi, I'm Mike Reagan. If you think the worst of Obamacare is behind us, think again. Soon its new rules will affect every business, every insured person, and every Medicare recipient. That's why you need to protect yourself, your family, and your business with the Obamacare Survival Guide. It's easy to read, the fastest way for you to understand this law. The Obamacare Survival Guide gives you the tips, loopholes, and strategies you need to know. If you're insured on Medicare, a business, a medical professional, just about anyone, you need to get the Obamacare Survival Guide. It's a #1 New York Times bestseller, and already more than 500,000 Americans have gotten their copy. Newsmax says it's the best guide to the new law. The Obamacare Survival Guide is at bookstores everywhere, or get Newsmax's $4.95 special offer and save $15 off the cover price. Just go online now or call us today.
Welcome
back. I'm Francesca Page, and here's your Newsmax Now update. A federal appeals court blocked an Arizona law that denies young immigrants from receiving driving licenses today. Arizona Governor Jan Brewer signed the executive order in 2012, barring licenses for immigrants receiving federal relief and work permits. The Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals says this unequally harms young immigrants. President Obama authorized the relief program in 2012, also by executive order. And a Ukrainian government official is claiming that Russia is increasing its military presence near their border. Ukraine's head of border control says security personnel at border checkpoints are under constant attack. He adds that Russia is violating Ukrainian airspace with drones. Tensions between Ukraine and Russia are escalating as pro-Russian separatists continue their fight against the Ukrainian government. And three people attempt by the rebels to recover from their defeat. The explosions block access to rebel-held territory. Slavyansk served as a stronghold for the pro-Russian separatists before government forces retook the city. The rebels are regrouping in Donetsk, where they claim independence under the Ukrainian rule. That's your Newsmax Now update. Now back to the Steve Malzberg Show.
All right, folks, it's hour number 3, and in just a moment, we're going to be talking to Dr. Mary Ellen O'Toole, retired senior profiler in the FBI's Behavioral Analysis Unit for 28 years, and we'll be discussing Justin Ross Harris and who is capable of allegedly leaving his child and suffocating them to death in a car. What kind of person is capable of that, and does she think that he might have done that? The evidence seems to be pointing that way. Then Matt Lewis, senior contributor for the Daily Caller and contributing editor for The Week magazine, will be here, and he'll explain why Speaker Boehner was right to say he's going to sue the president. Also, David Swerdling, columnist and contributing editor for TheRoot.com. He and I will discuss what happened in Mississippi. Thad Cochran, and he claims that Republicans and conservatives are suppressing the black vote and trying to suppress more than just the black vote with voters' ID laws. All that, give me 5 and more on this hour, the Steve Malzberg Show.
Ready? Fire away. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studio in New York City. A fusion of politics, commentary, entertainment, and sports. Steve and his team bring you the latest news and opinion now. Here is Steve Malzberg.
All right, folks, it was late last week that the nation sat and watched and was horrified by what they heard in the courtroom down in Georgia. The father of the little boy who was roasted to death in a car after the father allegedly, by accident, forgot about him and left him in that car. Here's some of what took place in the courtroom that shed some light on just what might have happened.
Ross must have left him in the car, and they're like, what? There's no other reason. Ross must have, no other explanation. Excuse me. Ross must have left him in the car, and they try to console her, and they're like, no, there's 1,000 reasons. There, he could have taken him to lunch or something. We don't know yet, and she's like, no.
Did you uncover anything of what he was doing during that day while his child was out in the car?
Yes.
Okay. What did you uncover?
He was having up to 6 different conversations with different women. It appeared from the messages from Kik mostly, which is a messaging service.
And is that a computer-related messaging service?
It is.
And these conversations he was having with these females, were these, of what nature were they?
The most common term would be sexting.
Okay, that's just some of what was taking place in the courtroom last week. And by the way, in the beginning they were talking about the wife, and we'll get to the wife in a second. But joining us now, as mentioned, is Dr. Mary Ellen O'Toole, retired senior profiler for the FBI's Behavioral Analysis Unit for 28 years. And Doctor, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
It's great to talk to you. All right. Before this this court hearing, which resulted in the judge's decision that there would be a trial and that bail was denied, I heard some anchors on CNN, one saying, hey, I left my kid, actually a legal analyst saying, I left my kid in a car once for 5 minutes and I've never lived it down, so let's let's give this guy a pass. And I heard another anchor say, there, but for the grace of God goes I, hasn't he suffered enough? And then all this came out. What did you see? What kind of person, as a profiler, did you see in that courtroom when you heard all this, and I guess in combination to hearing the facts from the police anyway, you also looked at him, a man who sat basically expressionless for most of the time. He did cry a little bit. What was your take?
Well, there's a lot of stuff going on. So first, when you have a case like this, you cannot personalize the crime. So as a trained profiler, you learn, you don't say, well, I did that and the way that I felt was this way, or I wouldn't have done it that way, or that I left my own kids in the car. You never personalize it because this isn't your crime scene. It's his crime scene. That's number one. Number two, when you work in the BAU, quite frankly, we see moms and dads, biological parents, kill their children pretty frequently in horrible ways. And so when I first heard that, and the fact that it was 7 hours that went by, unless this person had some type of really extreme memory issue, maybe medicated or something, this didn't sound like an accident. Way too long for that to happen. Now you jump into the courtroom, and then you've got someone that's sitting there fairly stoically, but we have to keep in mind that his attorneys probably told him, you're going to hear awful things, you need to sit there and just not have, you can't have a strong emotion a strong reaction because the judge is going to say something to you if you do. But all that said, when you evaluate behavior, what you have to do is say, I want to know how this person's behavior was like 5 or 6 months ago, 10 years ago. Then I can tell you right now if this is odd, out of the ordinary, or maybe it's very consistent with this person being very very cold-blooded, very selfish, very narcissistic, and very unattached to his child. But before I can say that, I can't just look at that behavior on one day and make that assumption. I have to know something about what he was like, what Ross was like before this crime ever happened. And that's the difference between someone who studies behavior and someone who simply opines on it.
Right, like me. The latter is me. But when you heard, to tell me whatever you can based on the little that you heard, because you didn't hear how he was 10 years ago, and you say you need that. But when you heard that he sexted with 6 different women while the kid was in the car, that he went to the car several times, while the child was in the car, and at some point probably dead, and that he, had just eaten lunch with the child. And looked online how to live a life without children, or a childless life, and looked online also about animals dying in hot cars and children dying in hot cars. Mm-hmm. It goes on and on, taking out insurance policies and then immediately asking relatives how to go about cashing it in once his son was dead. This must tell you something.
This told me that this was likely very intentional. All of those things that you mentioned, that this was very likely not an accident. You just take a few of the things. When you're sitting and you're texting for a period of 7 hours, it's not the shock of, oh my gosh, you're sexting to someone. What that says to me is that you're able to function. Strategically, you're able to put together emails and photographs and send them to 6 different people. So neurologically, you're working. Your brain is working, which tells me there's probably not a memory loss that took place during that day. So that's one thing that told me. His friends also testified that they went to lunch, and there was nothing unusual about his behavior. In other words, he wasn't sweating, he wasn't crying, he wasn't distracted. According to the testimony, he seemed to be the typical Ross. So, again, that told me that he didn't have the appearance of a lot of stress or a lot of anxiety. He goes back to the car, and by that time, and throws the light bulbs in the car, and he throws them in, and he notices nothing. And I think the medical testimony is going to say by that time there would have been something in there. If he had no idea what had happened, there had been something that would have either triggered his thought memory or something that would have begun, his little boy would have begun to have an strongly told me that this is probably not an accident. Probably not an accident.
All right, now let me ask you, and we know even much less about the wife. But the wife, from the testimony we've heard, two things we do know. Well, three, from the court appearance too. She sat pretty much expressionless during the whole proceeding. And make it four. At the funeral, not only did she defend her husband, but this was news to me yesterday. She reportedly said that if she could bring her son back, she wouldn't. Also, in the jail, or where her husband was being held, when she went there to see him for the first time after learning that her son was dead, instead of crying and saying, "What happened?" she said, "Did you tell them too much?" And when she went to pick up her kid prior to that at the school, and they said, "Oh, he's not here," the first thing she said, according to witnesses, was, "Oh, he must have left, my husband must have left him in the car." And they said, no, there's a million explanations. And she said, no, he must have left him in the car. Now, I don't even know. I don't even know what to make of this. You tell me, on that limited amount of information from those different different scenes that she was speaking at, what you could gain from that.
A lot, actually, and what we typically do, we never look at one comment, like we don't look at one piece of behavior. We look at what we call the totality of the circumstances. So the totality of all this, the statements and the behavior made by the wife are suspicious. I know I've heard people say, well, you can't really say how people mourn. That's ridiculous. That's what people say when they're not trained in behavior.
Well, what you just said is true sometimes, but in this case, it's ridiculous, in my opinion, to say that. But go ahead.
It is, and because there's a point like the bell curve, like our grades in college, where here's normal in the middle, and then you had the extreme on any ends. But there is behavior that crosses a line where it just becomes very odd, very strange, very inappropriate. And as an investigator, you can't let that go. You have to pursue that and find out, is this person typically odd or strange, or is that so out of the ordinary that now they're suspicious? I never get hung up on how people behave in court, because they could be told to keep their cool, just sit there and don't have a lot of emotion. So that can be somewhat, that's more coached behavior. Right. So we have to put that aside. But the other behavior, particularly that behavior at the funeral, that was so flamboyant. That was so full of, let's look at mom, let's look at us. We're the parents. Let's talk to the church through a speakerphone. That's the one I said, look, find out if these people are attention seekers, because if they are, maybe they've done something like that in the past in a lesser extreme circumstance. But when you look at all those things added up, they do add up to behavior that has to be investigated. And there's a point at which it becomes suspicious. In my opinion, her behavior, her comments are suspicious.
Yeah, and her also going online and looking at children suffocating to death in a car. So even though you don't know at this point, going back, 10 years and what they've done in the past, and as you know, as a profiler for the FBI, that does play into to everything. So I'm asking you to step out of that role just a little bit. Mm-hmm. But what you did, from what you see here, is the wife in trouble too?
I would believe that the wife is going to have some problems down the road. I do, and it may be a strategy thing right now where
get her to rat on the husband, right?
Well, it could be. I mean, they're a good office down there. They have a lot of experience, so it could be a circumstance of charge one parent and not the other. But with everything that you've laid out and everything that I know about the case, this thing is not over in terms of the wife and her involvement and how they may want to use her in this case, and how much more that they need to know about her. So we have not seen the end of this concerning the wife.
Well, Doctor, I hope you'll come back as this all progresses. Very insightful, and thank you very much for your time.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Dr. Mary Ellen O'Toole worked for the FBI for 28 years in the Behavioral Analysis Unit. I just, every time I see that picture of the father with that little boy, that beautiful little boy, what do you say? What could anybody say? All right, folks, when we come back, we will be joined by the senior contributor for the Daily Caller, Matt Lewis, coming up next, right here on the Steve Malzberg Show.
Looking for a home loan? Welcome to PennyMac, one of America's leading mortgage lenders, where all we do are home loans. PennyMac offers a neighborhood of home loan options. First-time buyers? Call PennyMac for some low down payment options as low as 3.5%. Looking for an FHA loan, jumbo loan, VA loan, or conventional loan? Call PennyMac. Want to refinance to save money? Yup, call PennyMac. Home underwater? PennyMac offers a government-sponsored HARP program that can help you reduce your interest rate. So if you're thinking home loans, PennyMac leads the pack with low rates week in and week out, so you know you're going to save money and get a fast closing. So call PennyMac now. We're probably helping some of your neighbors with their loans, and we're ready to help you too. Call the experts in home loans in the next 10 minutes to get a free $50 Home Depot gift card. Call 800-424-1956. 800-424-1956. 800-424-1956.
If you want to shed the fat and sculpt your body to get that slim, sexy look of your dreams, then you need to stop working out.
Say what?
And start rocking out with Rockin' Body, the fun new body makeover system that was created by fitness expert and insanity creator Shaun T.
Rockin' Body combines dance and fitness in a fun new way so you can achieve insane weight loss.
I lost 30 pounds dancing.
Now you can tone and tighten your abs, shrink and shape your hips and thighs, and lift and firm your booty, all while you're just dancing.
I've lost 33 pounds. I feel sexy.
And now, for a limited time, the complete $80 Rockin' Body system is 75% off. That's right, Rockin' Body is only $19.95. We'll even upgrade you to express shipping free. Get the complete Rockin' Body system for only $19.95.
Call 1-800-718-8807 or order online at rockinbody.com. 1-800-718-8807. Call now.
The odds of becoming a successful NASCAR driver? 1 in 125 billion. The odds of a child being diagnosed with autism? 1 in 68. I'm Jamie McMurray. Learn more at autismspeaks.org/signs.
Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studio in New York City, here is Steve Malzberg.
So we take these actions, and then now Republicans are mad at me for taking these actions. They're not doing anything, and then they're mad that I'm doing something. I'm not sure which of the things I've done they find most offensive, but they've decided they're going to sue me for doing my job. I mean, I might have said in the heat of the moment during one of these debates, I want to raise the minimum wage, so sue me when I do. But I didn't think they were going to take it literally. We can't afford to wait for Congress right now. That's why I'm going ahead and moving ahead without them wherever I can.
Yeah, and the masses applaud. I'll leave it at that. Welcome back, folks. Joining us now is Matt Lewis, senior contributor for the Daily Caller and contributing editor for The Week magazine. Hello, Matt. How are you, sir?
Hey, I'm doing great.
And you know, when you hear, I got to tell you, when you hear him talk like that, it's just like, you know, the Constitution be darned, the system of government be darned. I'm the president. I'll do what I want. We can't wait for them. And too bad if they don't like it. Let them keep suing me.
Yeah, and he's really good at that, right? And I mean, I think it worked for a long time, but 6 years in, I think the shtick is kind of wearing thin. And it's also such a false, you know, sort of, it's a non sequitur. In other words, let's assume he's right and that Congress is, you know, inept and impotent and that there's all this gridlock. That is not an invitation for the president to all of a sudden usurp legislative authority and begin doing things outside his, the constitutional scope of the executive branch. And it seems like that's essentially what he's arguing, that I have to do this because they're not doing their job. Well, I don't find anywhere in the Constitution that says that that's, you know, appropriate.
No, it might be in rules for radicals, though, which is probably just as good for him. Let's talk about the lawsuit that Boehner says will be announced, I think he said this week today. You know, I've had many conservatives on who say, and you've heard from them, not a good idea. There's ways for Congress to handle this, and Boehner's being a coward. He won't tighten the purse strings or cut off funding where they can, and certainly he won't impeach. So he's taking the third option and is going through the courts. But you say no.
I think it's a good idea. I mean, first of all, there's precedent for this in a sense. The question is, does John Boehner have standing? We don't know yet, and one could easily understand why the courts may decide that it would be in their best interest not to sort of play the referee between the other two branches of government. But there is a precedent for the Supreme Court slapping down presidents. It happened with, most famously with Harry Truman when he tried to nationalize the steel industry in 1952, and they ruled that he was, quote, making law. This was important because it sort of chastened future presidents and kept them within their scope of authority. And by the way, I think we all agree that there are certain executive orders that a president has the right to give. The question is, where do we cross that line and go into the sort of legislating field? And I think it would be healthy for somebody to kind of clearly define the separation of powers and what's appropriate and what's not. The other thing, by the way, is I happen to be one of, call me a squish, but I think that it would probably be a fool's errand and very bad politics to try to impeach Obama at this point.
I want to make it clear, I'm not calling for that. I'm just saying those are the options that, that he has available to him. Yeah.
So I would actually argue that in lieu of doing this, in lieu of going for impeachment, this is something that I think might be smart politics for Boehner and also actually principled, because I really do believe that it's important to, clearly define the responsibilities of the various, and the rule that we were honoring the rule of law, if nothing else.
Oh, absolutely. And I know you'll agree with me on this. I don't want to get caught in the leftist trap. I watched CNN today, and they had Ana Navarro, and she was the Republican going against some Democrat on this very issue. And Ana Navarro was, oh, well, on both sides, people are unhappy. And, I don't want to get caught up in the counting of executive orders and the counting of appointments. I think what this suit has to be mostly about is the president selectively enforcing and not enforcing existing law. That, I think, is pretty unprecedented.
Yeah, I agree. It's very egregious. I mean, if the president, and by the way, this transcends executive orders. This goes to recess appointments, which the Supreme Court unanimously ruled that he had overstepped his bounds with recess appointments. It goes to unilaterally changing deadlines for Obamacare and pushing, back the employer mandate. This is really a much larger trend. And I think that Speaker Boehner is targeting one facet of it. But, to just simply decide that there are some laws that you're not going to enforce is absurd. And I really
he did it, Matt. He did it with welfare reform, part of it. He's done it with immigration. He's done it with his own Affordable Care Act. And this is what I think Republicans really need to drive home, that it's not about, so the left says, oh, well, look at how many executive orders he signed compared to Bush. Bush signed more. It's not about that necessarily.
Absolutely. It's not about the number of executive orders, because by that count, Obama's not that bad. But if you look at the things he's done with the executive orders, which things he's chosen to champion, these are things that are, for one thing, very controversial. And I think it'd be much better for our nation to actually grapple with these things and to have a conversation about them. And it's not pleasant always. I mean, I'm actually in favor of immigration reform, and I would support the DREAM Act. I would support the Enlist Act. But I want it to be done appropriately by the rule of law. I don't want the president to just decide which laws he's going to enforce or not enforce. At the end of the day, I care more about balance of power and rule of law than I do about any given policy decision.
Now, I'm not a lawyer, but I'll ask you this. I don't know if you can answer it for sure, because we both have questions about standing. But I would assume, and we have less than a minute, that if he could show that they're the Congress and the president is not enforcing the laws that the Congress passed, then they are affected. I mean, they should have standing.
I'm not a lawyer either. I think that, from what I can discern, that's the big hurdle. And it's partly because, do they have standing? And it's partly because the courts may be loath to play this role. They may be looking for a way to avoid it. But I think it's worth, again, it's not completely unprecedented. And I think it's an option worth exploring. And by the way, the House has passed a bill which would expedite these things, which would send them immediately to the Supreme Court to be an arbiter. I think it would be healthy to have somebody who can be dispassionate to decide what is proper. What can the president or can the president not do?
Absolutely.
We don't really know.
Matt, great talking to you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, Matt Lewis, ladies and gentlemen, Daily Caller and The Week magazine. We're coming back with more of the Steve Malzberg Show.
If you are age 85 or younger,
call 800-981-7668.
To learn more about the Senior Care Plan from Senior Life Insurance Company. The average funeral now costs over $7,500, but the most government benefits will pay your family is only $255, leaving your loved ones to pay your debt. The Senior Care Plan will pay up to $30,000 for funeral and other final expenses. There is no medical exam, and you'll have lifetime coverage. Your rates will never increase, your benefits will never decrease, and your plan cannot be canceled by Senior Life. To receive free information about the Senior Care Plan and its benefits,
call 800-981-7668.
Also receive information about a free prescription discount card by calling now. You have no obligation. Operators are standing by. Call now.
Keep watching for a special free offer from Dr. Andrew Orden.
I've spent nearly 30 years looking for an effective, instant breakthrough to reduce the appearance of wrinkles that can be applied topically instead of with surgery or invasive medical techniques. And I finally found it with Derm Exclusive's Fill-In Freeze.
The Fill-In Freeze is definitely a secret weapon. It just instantly fills the crow's feet area around the smile lines and smooths out the whole complexion.
The powerful 4-peptide combination in Fill-In Freeze eliminates the appearance of wrinkles by visibly restoring skin to its natural smooth state instantly.
I want to look like I'm 25 again, don't we all? Every morning I put the Fill-In Freeze on. The lines around my eyes are completely gone. I look 15 years younger. It gives me a lot more confidence.
Now it's your turn to see your own instant results with Fill-In Freeze and pay only $39.95. But act fast because Dr. Orden is giving the first 500 callers a second full tube of Fill-In Freeze free. That's nearly $120 of Fill-In Freeze for only $39.95.
With Fill-In Freeze, you can take away the wrinkles. I'm able to put it on my crow's feet and wrinkles I was getting, and they totally disappear. I look 10 years younger.
Call now and this special offer gets even better. Today, Dr. Orden will also send you his Micro-Peel Resurfacing Pads, Intensive Repair Serum, and Collagen Lift Moisturizer. A $200 value, absolutely free.
I know you're wondering what Derm Exclusive can do for you. Well, you don't have to wonder. You can order it right now and try it for yourself, absolutely risk-free.
Call now and we'll even upgrade your order to express delivery free. Call 1-800-662-1971 and claim your free Fill-In Freeze, plus over $200 in bonuses. That's 1-800-662-1971. Call now.
Welcome back. I'm Francesca Page, and here's your Newsmax Now update. Messengers flying to the US will soon be asked to turn their electronic devices on instead of off. The measure stems from American intelligence concerns saying Al-Qaeda may be developing explosives that cannot be detected by airport security. There are no official reports such a device exists. Officials say the measure enhances aviation security. And the Vatican continues its effort to restore their reputation. Pope Francis begged forgiveness from victims of sexual abuse from a clergy in a meeting with survivors today. Francis spoke about his sorrow for the sins and grave crimes. Critics contended the Vatican has failed to properly punish the offenders. That's your Newsmax Now update. Now back to the Steve Malzberg Show.
Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studio in New York City, here is Steve Malzberg.
Hi, everybody. I hope you're enjoying your 4th of July weekend. I want to begin today by saying a special word to the U.S. men's soccer team, who represented America so well the past few weeks. We are so proud of you. You've got a lot of new believers, and I know there's actually a petition on the White House website to make Tim Howard the next Secretary of Defense. Chuck Hagel's got that spot right now, but if there is a vacancy, I promise to think about it.
All right, folks, look. I did a gimme 5 on this whole nonsense. This was his 4th of July message to the nation. He didn't throw this in at the end. He started out the 4th of July message to the nation with the shout out to the soccer team. How about the men and women who gave us this 4th of July? Now, he'll go on and talk about our men and women in uniform. But apparently the soccer uniform means more on this 4th of July that just passed, or meant more on this 4th of July that just passed, to the President of the United States, a soccer team that lost, a soccer team that won 1 game out of 4. Yet he starts his 4th of July message honoring them ahead of our soldiers. Welcome to the abomination. More.
Generations of Americans have marched, organized, petitioned, fought, and even died to extend those rights to others, to widen the circle of opportunity for others, and to perfect this union we love so much. That's why I want to say a special thanks to the men and women of our armed forces and the families who serve with them, especially those service members who spent this most American of holidays serving your country far from home.
And especially those who play soccer in the military. I mean, are you kidding me? You know, I remember when they had the shooting at Fort Hood, okay? The first Fort Hood shooting, the massacre. And he kept his schedule. And he was speaking to a group of Native Americans, okay? And he came out and it took him 2 minutes before he talked about the shooting at Fort Hood. I want to give a shout out to this one, and I want to give a shout out to that one. I've played that over and over and over again, many times since that occurred, I think in 08 or 09. I don't remember off the top of my head. That couldn't have been 08. What am I saying? 09, probably. Anyway, his priorities are all messed up. How do you come into a situation where there was just a shooting and soldiers died at a base on your own country, and you're giving shout outs to people in the audience before you mention what happened? And then it's 4th of July weekend, your presidential message, and you're talking about the soccer team, and then our men and women in uniform? I'm speechless. I'm really speechless. You would expect better from a president of the United States. What does he think? He's being hip? Cool? I don't get it. I mean, maybe you could sit down and talk to me and convince me if the soccer team won the World Cup, or got to the finals of the World Cup, or the semifinals of the World Cup. They won 1 game. And he puts them ahead of our troops on the 4th of July? As if soccer fever is sweeping the nation? No, it's not. No, it's not. It never has. It was going to when Pele and Giorgio Canaglia and all those people came into soccer. Didn't happen. Then Beckham, didn't happen. And now this? But that's beside the point. Again, it's an embarrassment. It should be to the president. But as an American citizen watching his president and listening to his president arrange his priorities on the 4th of July, it's disgusting. And it makes me sick. Really does. On the Steve Malzberg Show, folks. And we'll be back with more. But first, this hour's American Moment, we look at John Glenn's journey into space.
He had served in 2 wars and flown over 150 combat missions. But in just 60 seconds, this Marine Corps officer would experience a ride like no other. At 9:47 a.m. on the 20th of February, 1962, Lieutenant Colonel John Glenn Jr. of New Concord, Ohio, found himself sitting on top of an Atlas VI rocket filled with 600,000 pounds of fuel. At liftoff, 360,000 pounds of thrust hurled the massive rocket and its occupant into space and America's history books. John Glenn became the 4th human being to enter space and the first American to orbit the Earth. For his remarkable heroism, President Kennedy awarded Colonel Glenn NASA's Distinguished Service Medal.
As our knowledge of this universe in which we live increases, may God grant us the wisdom and guidance to use it wisely. Thank you, Colonel.
Glenn went on to become the United States Senator from Ohio, and in 1984 ran for the Democratic presidential nomination, but lost to Walter Mondale. You're watching An American Moment on Newsmax TV.
In 2014, half of your friends, family, and neighbors may lose their jobs, all while you're robbed of 90% of your life savings, investments, and home's value. Controversial economist Robert Wiedemer, who was the only expert to predict the recession, has released a startling video with shocking evidence that the powers that be have tried to ban. But that hasn't stopped 50 million people from getting the truth. Watch it at aftbook.com. That's aftbook.com.
Why are so many companies looking to hire ITT Tech grads?
Carter Brothers is a leading nationwide provider of electronic security. When we hire, we look for skilled professionals with technical know-how, like many of our ITT Tech grads.
B&T Group is a leading engineering and construction firm specializing in the wireless industry. When we need drafting technicians, ITT Tech sends us candidates who have the right set of skills and align with our core values.
Innovation Controls is a global provider of engine-driven equipment management and control solutions. We like the hands-on educational approach that ITT Tech students receive because we need people we can count on right from the start.
Make a choice that can make a difference. Call now to find out about the new Opportunity Scholarship from ITT Tech. Learn more now. Call 800-453-0319. That's 800-453-0319. 800-453-0319.
Have you or someone you know developed serious complications from surgery using a transvaginal mesh? The FDA recently issued a warning that transvaginal mesh can cause serious side effects and complications, such as additional surgery, perforations, vaginal scarring, and mesh erosion or disintegration. Over 20,000 severe complications have been recorded, and so far there have been 2 jury verdicts totaling more than $830 million for injured victims. You won't pay a thing until your case is settled. Call us today.
Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studio in New York City, here is Steve Malzberg.
All right, folks, welcome back to the Steve Malzberg Show. Joining us now is David Swerdlick, columnist and contributing editor for TheRoot.com. And David, welcome back, sir.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks for having me.
All right, you wrote a piece, and the headline was, No Rush Limbaugh, African-American voters aren't Uncle Toms, we're just smart. I did not hear the show in question. You pull out a quote. I'm sure you did it in good faith. But I would guess that he wasn't actually calling them Uncle Toms. He was referring to the fact that many in the black community, and it's accepted by the leftist media, refer to blacks who are Republican or vote Republican as Uncle Tom. I don't think he was literally calling them that, although, like I said, I didn't hear it. I would just, knowing Rush, would guess that's what he was talking about. And he was referring to the blacks who came out and voted for Thad Cochran. Oh, you're Uncle Toms in a way that would throw it back at those people, you know, who voted for him, because that's what the left would normally do, or some leftist blacks would do to conservative blacks who vote Republican. But that aside, you defend the fact, or support the fact, that so many blacks came out in that runoff election and voted for Thad Cochran. Why?
Well, first of all, Steve, let me just say this. What Limbaugh said was, what are they calling themselves? Uncle Toms for Cochran?
Well, that's because liberal blacks often call blacks who vote for Republicans Uncle Toms.
Hear me out. What I said in my piece was that maybe Limbaugh thought he was joking. I'm sure, you know, he thinks he's a funny guy. Maybe he thought he was trying to be funny. Either way, it's an offensive use of the term. And I'll further clarify with you, Steve, that I personally don't condone the use of the term in any context. Not when Rush Limbaugh uses it.
Okay,
I don't condone it when people call black conservatives Uncle Toms either. You know, it's just an insult, and it doesn't get the discussion anywhere.
Fair
to
enough.
your question about the people who voted in that runoff election in Mississippi, my view is that people acted in a completely rational self-interest to vote for the Republican that they found least offensive in that particular election, in that particular context. If anybody voted that, you know, and broke the rules by voting, if they had voted in the Democratic primary first and then voted in the Republican runoff, then their votes should be stricken or discounted. I'm not for breaking the rules, but I have no problem with people, African-American voters who are primarily Democratic, participating in the Republican race if they think they're going to get a better deal from one candidate than from the other candidate. Cochran came across to people as a Republican that they could accept, and McDaniel, I think, came across as a Republican that was unacceptable, and that's why they voted that way.
Do you think the flyer that I'm holding in my hand that John Fund posted on National Review the day after the election, which says that in bold letters, the Tea Party intends to prevent blacks from voting on Tuesday, and then they list Cochran as a civil rights supporter and Chris McDaniel as quite the opposite. Do you think that let's turn out for all Mississippians and vote for Cochran? That Cochran works for all Mississippians. Mississippi cannot and will not return to the bygone era of intimidating black Mississippians from voting. We must rise up on Tuesday to have our voices heard. Blah, 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 blah. How do you feel about that flyer?
Steve, a lot of conservatives have portrayed that as race baiting, and here's my response to that. Again, let me be crystal clear. As far as I understand, the rules of the Mississippi runoff were that if people had voted in the Democratic primary, they couldn't then turn around and vote in the Republican runoff. And if anybody did that, their vote should be stricken.
Agreed.
That being said, any of these other tactics that people are coming after, or this general resentment that African Americans actually, you know, collectively made a smart move and backed Cochran, I think it's really a smokescreen on the part of Republicans. Look, African Americans do think that Republicans, particularly the far-right Tea Party version of Republicans, have made moves to try to limit the rights of African Americans to vote, not just in Mississippi, but elsewhere. It's these 25 or 30 states where Republicans and ALEC and other conservative networks have backed these restrictive voter ID laws, reduce early voting, etc. People do think that that is an effort to get black people out of the electorate, and until people think otherwise, that kind of campaigning is not only going to be persuasive, I think it rings true for a lot of people.
So the Tea Party intends to prevent blacks from voting on Tuesday as the headline on a flyer. You have no problem. How are they going to prevent black people from voting on Tuesday?
Look, campaigns make outlandish claims all the time, and this one is actually rooted in the ground already being set, Steve, as African Americans. But you know what? I'm not going to put it in the third person, Steve. I think it. Okay. I'm not putting it on the party or on the Tea Party. I'm saying in general, conservatives over the last several years have pushed initiatives in a variety of states designed to keep people of color, younger people, seniors out of the electorate, to shrink the electorate, because Republican candidates do better when the electorate is smaller. There's no reason to put in these restrictive voter ID laws in states where there's no measurable voter fraud. There's certainly no reason to put in to reduce early voting. Early voting just means more people will vote.
David,
that should be
you yourself just talked about the accusation that there are people who voted illegally in this very election we're talking about. And if there were voter ID in place and a system to check further on these people who voted, black, white, green, yellow, I don't care what color they are, it has nothing to do with color, just if they were Democrats who had previously voted, we'd all be a lot better off. Now there's a chance that this whole election is going to be overturned. How could you say there's no problem with voter fraud?
Steve, if any of those allegations is proven in court, then I think that there will be a case for that. What I don't think there's a case for is any of the recent national elections that we've seen or statewide elections we've seen in recent years when these voter initiatives have been coming about. And I think that in this case, again, it doesn't excuse anybody if they knowingly broke the rules. But let's face it, this was a peculiar situation of a state that has an open primary system, but has a rule that people can't vote in a runoff if they voted in a previous primary 3 weeks earlier. And it's a situation where a lot of people don't know the rules because this situation hardly ever comes up in Mississippi or anywhere else.
Ignorance of the law is not
no,
an
it's
excuse.
not. But no, it's not. But why were Republicans or conservatives pushing these voter ID laws before this happened?
Because you know what? I hate to tell you, the overwhelming majority of this country is in favor of voter ID laws. You can't do anything. You can't open a bank account without a photo ID. How is it racist to expect people to have a photo ID in the year 2014? Would you explain that to me?
I didn't say it was racist. I said that conservatives, Republicans do better in elections when the electorate is smaller.
And how is that going to keep the electorate smaller? How is proving who you are going to keep the electorate smaller?
How is reducing early voting going to?
Now you're talking about something. Now you're going to a different topic. Talk about voter ID. How is voter ID, which you bring up as conservatives wanting to keep seniors and blacks and this one and that one out, how is it going to do it?
Steve, again, look.
How? Tell me how.
I've heard all the conservative arguments that say.
How? I'm asking you your argument. How?
People say you can't open a bank account, you can't get on a plane without ID. Yeah. That's all true. Those aren't rights under the Constitution.
No. How is it going to limit voting?
I'm sorry, say that again?
How is it going to cut down the number of people able to vote? You're telling me people don't have IDs?
These laws, in my view, are designed to discourage people from going to polls.
You're not telling me how they're designed to do it.
Forms of ID. There are people who are citizens who have every right to vote, who may not have the proper form of ID, who may not have obtained the proper form of ID by the time of an election. And if the law is that they have to have an ID, then they have to have an ID. But putting these laws in place, A, is designed to shrink the electorate.
But you won't tell me how. David, I'm begging you. How? David, I'm trying to give you a chance to explain your claim. How? What's to prevent someone from getting an ID? How is this going to how is this an attempt to try to lower the electorate, the participatory electorate? How?
Steve, study after study has found that there is no measurable voter fraud in these states.
Now you're changing your story. Now you're going to something else again.
No, I'm telling you the facts. I'm saying to you that study after study in these states where voter fraud has less than 1%, less than 2% in a lot of these cases, voter fraud in statewide elections.
You're talking about 100
statewide elections.
You're talking about 100,000 votes or more, or tens of thousands of votes. 1 or 2% is pretty significant to me. But again, that's not the issue. I'll ask one more time. How does having to have a photograph, an ID, limit the voting pool, the voting population?
Because there are people who are citizens who are eligible to vote, who have every right to vote, some of whom don't have ID.
So they'll get it.
Well, Steve, that is an issue that those people will have to face if the law is changed. But I'm suggesting to you that the motivation behind these laws is not to combat voter fraud, but to keep these people away from the polls.
And all these people will have to do is have a picture taken, and then they're back at the polls. So I don't really. Hey, David, we'll have to agree to disagree because I'm up against the clock. Great piece. Also, check out David's great piece at theroot.com on liberals and progress they've made. We'll talk again, David. Thank you. Up next, Gimme 5.
Falls are the number one cause of injury to senior citizens. Falling down stairs can be disastrous. Acorn Stair Lifts has a solution. Just don't fall. Sit, relax, ride with an Acorn Stair Lift, the world's leader in stair lifts. That's right. Don't let limited mobility keep you from going up and down your stairs, even outside. Call Acorn Stair Lifts now for a free information kit and no obligation quote. Now you can safely ride with your Acorn Stair Lift.
Now I don't have to worry about him climbing those stairs again.
And our Acorn stairlift was very affordable.
Our Acorn stairlift is definitely more affordable than moving.
The Acorn stairlift has a padded seat and backrest. It easily folds up for access to the stairway. 5 safety sensors stop your Acorn stairlift if there's something in the way. And it even runs during power outages.
And I'm the king of my own castle again.
You'll be working directly with the world's leader in stairlifts. That's right, there's no middleman. Acorn's trained technicians professionally install your stairlift special construction. We don't leave until you're completely comfortable using your Acorn stairlift.
Don't risk a serious fall down the stairs.
I was really surprised at how little they cost.
Call for your free no-obligation information kit and quote from Acorn Stairlifts. Just don't fall. Safely ride up and down your steps.
Give your life a lift with an Acorn stairlift.
Call 1-800-514-1402 for your free information kit. That number again is 1-800-514-1402. Or visit our website today.
Call now.
Get ready, America! The Affordable Health Care Act is here, and it's got everyone asking, how do I find affordable health insurance that's right for me? The answer is simpler than you think. Pick up the phone and call I Can Benefit right now. Waiting for you is a team of licensed insurance agents who understand healthcare reform and can help you find the right plan to take care of you and your family's health, because nothing is more important. Have you been denied in the past? I have. Struggling to pay high premiums? Join the hundreds of thousands of callers just like you and let us help you find a plan that works for you and your budget. But I'm not stopping there. Call now and receive your free ICANN prescription savings card. Save up nations at over 60,000 pharmacies nationwide. Don't wait. Call now and get the answers you deserve and a price you'll love.
Call toll free 1-800-426-2983. That's 1-800-426-2983. Call now.
Time to wake up.
I've got a job to do today.
I've got a job to do today.
Don't forget, you've got a job to do today.
Hey, Mom. I got the job. Thanks.
Got the job. Welcome aboard.
Have a good first day at work, Mom.
Your donations to Goodwill fund job training programs right in your community.
Feels good to start fresh, right?
Sure does. And like that, you're a job creator.
Your wacky uncle, or your Ted Cruz-loving neighbor, or your cousin who watches Fox News all day might swing by for a burger or dog. But don't worry, I've got you covered. It's time for Reverend Al's July 4th barbecue tips.
I'm so sorry, folks, as I welcome you to Give Me 5 that we didn't present this to you prior to the 4th of July. So your crazy uncle or your neighbor who watches Fox News all day could have been appropriately dealt with, according to Al Sharpton. He presented this on his show on MSNBC, and I guess you could call this the entertainment portion of the Steve Malzberg Show. Whenever we focus on Al, it's always entertaining. Here's more.
Barack Obama is a socialist. He believes in socialism.
We have a president who wants to turn America into another European-style social welfare state.
President Obama and his socialist policies must be stopped.
The classic socialist line. But you'll have the cold hard facts to go with those cold ones. There's been 52 straight months of private sector job growth under President Obama. The United States is on pace for the best year of job creation since 1999. And on Wall Street, it was a record-breaking day. The Dow Jones crossed 17,000 for the first time ever. Look at this jobs picture. You can see the surge under President Obama.
The hard facts to go with this I don't know what he said. I don't even understand what he said, to be honest with you. But that's okay. We'll put it in the blooper reel next time. I guess it was well, whoever did it. We always bring you those Sharpton blooper reels. Anyway, you got that? I want you to arm yourself next time your crazy uncle or your Ted Cruz loving neighbor comes your way knocking at your door. Be armed with the Al Sharpton facts. Here's more.
But as your neighbor digests that, your cousin might start up on health care.
Obamacare is the biggest job killer in this country.
The worst thing that has happened in this nation since slavery. And it is, in a way, it is slavery.
I think our position is very clear on the laws of train wreck.
First tip, look up and point. The sky is still there. It didn't fall like conservatives predicted. Over 8 million Americans of all ages have signed up. The uninsured rate is at a new low, the lowest since Gallup started tracking in 2008. The Affordable Care Act is not a job killer. Just see the first tip.
Right. Remember, the Affordable Care Act is not a jobs killer. It's a good thing. So many people are. I just read a story today where a couple had to separate so that they could keep their health care under Obamacare. That's a good thing, Al. Remember, repeat, Obamacare is a good thing. Too bad the rest of the country doesn't agree with you, Al, but then again, they rarely do. More.
With that one out of the way, get ready for the fireworks. No, not the ones in the sky. I'm talking about the family fireworks. Uncle Frank might uncork this one.
Believes somehow that he's become a monarch or an emperor that can basically ignore the law and do whatever he wants.
President Obama doesn't want to be bothered with the niceties of democracy in our constitutional system. He just wants to decree it.
He said that let's make this a year of action, and then he declared himself King Obama.
Oh, the Reverend Al has an answer to that one, too, when your crazy uncle comes a-knocking. Just watch.
Since the beginning of the 20th century, President Obama has the least amount of executive orders. You can see this chart. Way at the end is President Obama. And yes, that means less than George. Grill your conservative friends like you've grilled that last piece of chicken. Give them a piece of chicken. Give them one grand finale by saying, nice try, but we got you.
All right, Al's got us. Of course, the whole objection to Obama is his lawlessness, recklessness, his enforcement, his selective enforcement of laws that are already on the books. A president can't say, we will not deport, we will not enforce this part of immigration reform, we will not enforce this part of a law on the books regarding welfare reform, which Clinton signed into law. We will not enforce this part of my own health care law. That's the monarch part of it, Al. But good try.